lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Matt Williams got a brilliant start from the third row of the grid.
He's gone, he's hit him, he's straight off at the chase.
Half-second lead. Oh, with a sizzling car in the background.
He has it. Oh, he's round on the last lap.
There's a massive accident.
Next to the inside, what a move, what a move.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the beginning of a brand new GT3 series here for Automobilista Australia. But this GT3 series is unlike any of the others that have preceded it over the course of the last 2.5 years. As they say in the classics, one of these things is not like the other, and tonight the other starts in Japan. A quick 6-race series over the course of the next 3 months will determine the GT3 Sprint Series champion for Automobilista Australia. And for the very first time, a prize is on offer with thanks to our wonderful sponsors at Antara Resort Style Living, putting up $50 or thereabouts for an opportunity to pick up one of 5 different items potentially on offer for the winner at the end of the series come the end of September. It's nice to have you along for this historic night. Thank you to all of you who come and watch the stream. Thank you to all of you who watch this back at a later date. And thank you for all the kind words in the chat over the course of the last 6 months, and hoping to see plenty more over the next couple of rounds. My name is Steve DeVries, and it's a pleasure to welcome back to the box for the second time for as many series this year, Josh Bagsy Bags and Michael the Floodman Zalavari. And gents, well, what do we make of this series? This is something completely unique, nothing we've ever seen before, not only in sim racing but in real life as well.
Yeah, we're going in for hello Nether, hello Michael, nice to see you both again for what's going to be a very different type of series. We've been used to longer races with the minimum of an hour length, and now we're cutting it down to just all-out sprint, 30 minutes, wall-to-wall action. You got to qualify well, because otherwise you're going to be trying. You're not going to have time to barge your way up through the field. You're not going to be able to strategize it anywhere near as much as you could. You just have to absolutely go for it. It's going to be very exciting to watch a very different type of racing in GT3 cars.
Yeah, exactly. Good evening, Nether. Good evening, Basie. Good evening, everyone watching along. Yeah, this is going to be pure, unadulterated, door-to-door GT3 action, and a bit of a different format, not just with the races, but also qualifying and points as well. So we'll get all into that in just a second. But again, very exciting to see a bit of a different format for the Sprint Series compared to what we've been doing with the World Series very recently.
Yeah, you're not wrong there, gents. This is the brainchild of Mike Coulston. So he's had quite a lot of involvement in GT3 this year, getting everything up and running. This is an idea that he'd come up with to see just how hard some of these drivers can push these cars over a short amount of time, taking out a lot of the usual elements in the equation that are prolific in GT3 racing, and that's strategy, long runs, pit stops, safety car intervention. All that stuff is completely out the window, as you'll see in the series overview in just a few moments. Just seeing literally how much you can wrangle these cars. So at the moment we've just got a little bit of pit lane activity going on. I believe we're getting a little commemorative photo going on in the pit lane actually on the main straight for this historic night. But in the meantime, let's bring up the calendar for the Sprint Series, because this is something, Michael, that's a little bit unique. There's only 6 rounds, but there is 2 races a night, so that's the unique element here. What surprises me when I look at this calendar, and I was only thinking about this today, have a look at what's on there. There's 2 trips to Japan, 2 trips to Australia, a trip to the Middle East and to America. The one element that usually is prolific in GT3 racing is European races, and there's none.
Yeah, that completely didn't click to me until you brought it up. But yeah, a lot of amazing tracks in Europe that we've just not chosen to use. But in saying that, though, the tracks that we have chosen are a great mix of tight bull rings. Where we are tonight, Okayama definitely has that aspect in the middle sector, and then these long, beautiful flowing tracks that are built for GT3 racing. The Bend, Phillip Island, and even Sakia has a lot of really nice flowing sections for these cars to really show what they're able to do. And then to finish it off at Road Atlanta, that is going to be a series finale not to be missed. But yeah, very interesting to see no European rounds now that you've mentioned it. I'm a little surprised now that I think about it.
Yeah, that's just something that got to me like, literally probably about a couple of hours ago was the fact that it was devoid. Every single series that we've run here in AMS Oz, we've had some sort of European round. We've never ever missed one. And to have one that's off the calendar, it's almost unheard of. It's almost like sacrilege, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah. Although, in saying that though, we did spend a long time in Europe throughout the World Series, the GT3 World Series that we just finished up. I think off the top of my head, something like 8 of the 9 rounds were in Europe.
Yeah, majority of. Yeah, there was quite.
Yeah.
I think there was quite a lot on that calendar, and yeah, every single series we've had, we've seen at least 2 or 3 or 4 even rounds in Europe. Bagsy,
Yeah.
I guess you're probably a bit disappointed by that as well, because there's been some classic European tracks that have gone missing with all of this as well.
There are, but it's not the worst thing because we've had several goes on a lot of these tracks. You know, Monza, places like Monza and Spa, they're excellent tracks, and I'm always going to love them. And we know Monza's thrown up every time we've gone there, amazing races. But this is a nice time to try out some non-traditional. I say non-traditional, but a lot of these circuits have had a lot of GT3 racing before. It's just that we're not doing it in the context of a bigger season with a lot of other places. It's going to be nice to see how they go, especially places like Phillip Island. You probably don't see much in the way of these sort of GT3 fields being raced there, so that's going to be quite good to see.
Yeah, the one thing with Phillip Island as well, and I can speak about this from real life experience, we have seen some GT3 stuff there. We have the Australian GT Championship that does run there, and we have had the trophy class cars also competing down there too. So it's not a circuit that you would traditionally associate as seeing how GT3 machinery runs, but it is one that you can run there and get quite a good battle pack forming, which will definitely be interesting to see how they go with the full-scale machinery there in the next couple of weeks. So that's round 4. That's at the end of August, so I'll be looking forward to seeing how that one goes. All right, so how is this series going to run? Sprint series, you say? Well, yeah, sprint series. This is how it all goes down. So, as per usual, practice servers run during the week and they run on the night as well. So, up until we started, we're probably getting close to just over an hour gone now. The practice server was extended just a little bit, just to make sure that everybody could get in and there was no problems tonight. So that's why it opened and is still running at the moment. They're about to have the driver's briefing, as I understand it. Qualifying is a little bit different beast here. Every session, so there's 2 races a night, there is a 10-minute qualifying session for each race, but it's 1 flying lap. That is a huge change compared to anything we see normally in years gone by with AMS Oz and GT3. And then the big killer, 2 30-minute races. So a formation rolling start, which is normal. The race start commencing at the control line, which is normal. Time plus 1 lap, which is normal. But the big one, there's no need to take a pit stop. All the fuel settings have been turned off, so they're back to normal. So you can quite comfortably get the 30 minutes and a little bit on fuel. And there's no safety car intervention. So there's no real avenue. If you make a mistake or you get damage, there's no coming back from that. So you've got to race hard, but you've got to race fair, and you've got to race as closely door handle to door handle as you can. Bagsy, the strategy component having gone out the window changes the dynamic of this type of racing enormously.
It really does. It really means qualifying is super important. We've seen a couple times where people like Will Devonish have been able to not qualify, and by the end of a even 60-minute race with a pit stop or an 90-minute race is able to get up to the front and actually potentially compete for a win. And that's not going to happen. If you qualify poorly, you're already behind the 8 ball. And even if you qualify well, you have to make sure you get that good start, and you're going to have to be vigorous in your defense and offense here. You know, we're going to see a lot more banging of doors, a lot more potential incidents. So if people are going to end up being spun by other people because people are going to be absolutely charging to the front, the stewards after the race might have a little bit more to do potentially with aggrieved parties coming and making their cases. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the dynamic changes, because that's probably the biggest thing about the series is that it's a very big paradigm shift from what we were doing to what we are going to do now. And it's going to really change. It's going to be interesting to see which drivers adapt to that better, because we've got fast drivers, but are they going to be fast in those short stints?
You're absolutely right. The one other dynamic that we probably really need to touch on here is the qualifying sessions, because in the past we've had 15-minute qualifying sessions, and just about all of the World Series races that we've just wound up in the last couple of weeks, it did take until quite some distance into the qualifying session before the eventual pole time was settled. I can only think of one round, I think it might have been Donington if memory serves me correctly, where Xeris's lap was good enough to hang on to pole position for the majority of the session. But we do see it does take a bit of time to get temperatures up and pressures up to set a couple laps, and it usually takes 2 or 3 goes before you get there. There's going to be a huge emphasis now on actually preparing the car for your one-time flying lap, because if you bin it, you don't get another one.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just preparing the car, but preparing yourself as well, getting yourself into that mind frame. And some people will be able to do it better than others. And that's going to be a big change, because we've made mention of it already. With the short races, with the lack of pit stops, with the lack of strategy options, a bad qualifying can leave you in for a really rough night.
Yeah, that's why there has been some talk initially during the GT3 World Series toward the end, when the calendar for the Sprint Series was revealed. There was talk that it was going to be a progressive grid style format between race 1 and race 2. So it's going to be a normal qualifying session with a progressive grid between races for how it finished. But given that there's been a bit of a prize put on offer by the folks at Antara Resort Style Living, the decision was made that someone had a bad night, or got punted off the road unceremoniously, and then probably needed to have a bit of another chance to fight their way back and try and make the point standings a bit interesting, also making sure that we didn't have a runaway winner at the end of the season as well. They've elected now to go to this unique qualifying style format. So I think it's probably a smart choice in the end, and it just gives us something to talk about, because we could see some really close door handle to door handle racing, and almost unheard of to hear of rubbing door panels in GT3 for the kind of things that we could possibly see.
Okay, I watch a lot of GT3 racing. I watch a lot of GT3 racing.
You watch more than me, let's put it that way.
Yeah. It's certainly in the likes of SRO GT World Challenge Europe and those bigger GT3 series where you have something like 60 cars running in an endurance race. You do get that sort of door handle to door handle action. And it's going to be very exciting to see. These cars almost end up like touring cars at the end of the race. So it might not be something that you'd be familiar with if you're watching, say, Australian motorsports, especially Australian GT3, which is kind of a bit weak at the minute. But certainly in Europe and in other sports car series around the world, you do get that sort of rubbing as racing GT3 buffing and barging. And it's very exciting to see that translated to this series here, because it's going to be a madhouse, especially at a track like today. It's just going to be an absolute madhouse.
And go on, Banksy.
It'll be interesting to see, as I mentioned before, about the potential for more incidents and stuff, as to how much more lenient stewarding is going to be this season, because we haven't really asked about that and found out what that's going to be like, because in a different format, in the format we were doing, you had the time to be patient, whereas now you really don't have the time to be patient. So is there going to be a bit of a step back in the stewarding department as to what is and isn't acceptable? That's something that'll be interesting to find out.
Yeah, well, we did have a live steward for a number of rounds in the World Series, given some of the tracks and some of the unique nature of the tracks that we went to. We don't have a live steward in this circumstance tonight, and it will be an interesting to see how it works out. We believe what's going to happen is it'll still be like a number of the other series where if you've got a grievance to file, you put it in within 24 hours of the race ending and it gets looked at. But as to how the penalties are dished out, that will then be the next question. The important, the important thing there too, before you go too much further there, Bagsy, is also the point standings. So the point system has been retained from the World Series, and this is the one that's across the bottom there. So 25 points for a win. So there's a maximum 50 points on the table each night. So even if you have a bad round, you can still knock up a couple of points having a bad race and then have a slightly better second race or vice versa and still be within earshot of a race leader. So it's not all bad news.
And the fact that we've got, because we have the same point system, it will still reward consistency. But because of the format we have, it's not going to be so bad in terms of 30-minute races. It's a lot harder for technical troubles to come in and ruin a race compared to these longer races. We know that even us just watching the races and commentating on them, we can have frame rate drops that need you to restart the game. And that's not counting all the things that can go wrong while you're just using your sim rig.
That's right.
So, but there should be a lot less of that. So it will be less about reliability, more about pace. And also on the stewarding thing, it means that if grid penalties are handed out or not being allowed to qualify, that is a much bigger punishment in this format than in the old format.
Yeah, certainly. Absolutely spot on there. Qualifying, the emphasis is going to be huge. Well, when we talk about qualifying, that's a session we're about to go into in a couple of minutes' time. But, Michael, this Okayama track, this is almost a perfect storm, isn't it? It's perfect starting ground for a series of this nature. It's a short track. Estimated laps are around about 22. A bit of elevation change and plenty of passing zones. So this is going to be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And if there was one word that I would use to sum up this track's character, it would be camber. So while there isn't a lot of massive elevation change, what there is there's a lot of changes in camber in the middle of corners. So if you go through, I think we were in sector 1 just now. Sector 1, you've got this beautiful banked right-hander to bring you onto that back straight. And then you've got this very difficult infield section where the camber changes in the middle of the corners a lot of the time. So you get in, you tip the car in to start the corner with the track assisting you, and then it will dip away and fall away, and you'll have to catch the car on the exit. And so you'll see maybe a lot of on throttle spins, so trying to bring up the throttle a bit too early on the latter half of the lap because of this as well. So it's going to be a very difficult racetrack to get a handle on. And I think just looking at the practice server, we've got some stats up here. There's a few people who have done a significant amount of laps. So the likes of Brendan Ross done over 100 laps in the practice, but Noah Turra has done almost 300 laps of practice at this circuit. So look for those guys to stand out, because getting a handle on the circuit in this sprint series format is definitely something that's going to give you an advantage. So yeah, Noah Turra, 300 laps. That's a crazy amount of track time.
And in terms of the pace that people were showing as well, he was setting times that were into the 27. So he's right up the pointy end of the field, inside the top 6 in practice. Honours at the moment, practice server times going to Will Devonish. He's set a mid-26. So we'll be interested to see who can replicate that time. Just getting some chat coming through in the live stream. Thanks to Brenton Foley for this one. And his comment is, I expect drivers from last year's V8 supercars and Super 2 possibly to do better with the qualifying format due to being very familiar with that quali format. Now, the only difference there is that the Super 2 guys last year got 2 laps on the qualifying session, and this is only 1. But still, it is all about preparing the car for how you tackle the qualifying session.
It's one of those things where, unlike the longer formats we have been running, there's not going to be as much difference between the car you prepare for the race and the car you prepare for the qualifying. You're really just going to pull out your fuel, and that's going to be it, because we're going to have less than a stint's worth of fuel in the car. So they're going to be a lot closer to what they would be normally.
And not only that as well, sorry to jump in over the top of you, Nether, but because we're only running 1 times fuel burn in this series, the cars are going to be a lot lighter as well throughout the course of the stint. So they're not going to change as much over the course of the stint. So that's going to be another thing that's going to make it a little easier to set up these cars for a race in a sprint series format.
Yeah, the interesting part as well about this whole series is that out of the 6 tracks we run, 5 of them we do not have any GT3 track records. The only one we do is for Suzuka, which we'll see in 2 more rounds' time for round 3. So that's why you see at the bottom there are no GT3 track records for this 12-turn, 3.7 kilometre circuit. All right, gents, let's take a deep breath because we're about to enter qualifying.
It's going to be absolutely mental. We apologize in advance if we struggle to follow this because there's 10 minutes and 23 cars. So, I mean, that'll be the interesting thing. Who goes out straight away, who stays back a bit, because getting that lap time in is going to be very important. But realistically, there are 600 seconds that you have to set a lap time or to have started your lap.
Yeah.
And there are 23 cars, and that is not a even amount of time for everyone.
No, definitely not. This is something that I wouldn't say I've been dreading, but I've been looking forward to and not looking forward to at the same time, just because I'm so keen to see what happens here. Who's going to be first to blink? Well, I think we've just spotted who it's going to be. We've just got to cycle the track cameras to pick that person up. There it is. It's one of a number of drivers have also switched cars this season as well. So there's Manuel Centeno in the Wildcat Jaguar, and he's at the top of the pit straight here, or the pit lane, so he's waiting to go out.
As well.
And Turmo in the Dodge Viper. So now time has already started to count. There's 30 seconds already gone out of this 10 minutes. So now Turmo's the one that has got the whole shot here. There he goes in the Viper, so he's out. And one of the BMWs from the Matt Harvey Repair and Tune squad coming out too.
DS.
That's Dimitri, so he's
Dimitri,
he's a newcomer to this series, so we'll keep an eye on him. So just the 3 cars out on the track at the moment.
Looks like we've got Burko and Ross coming out as well.
Yep, and there's Burko. He's now switched from the Lexus to the Bentley, so to is Zach Ross. And now they all start to flood out. So there is a fair bit of pit lane activity going on at the minute. Rody having switched the Viper as well. There's a few more Nissans this time around too.
Might have to take a bit of a time in between sessions to just go through the grid just to see where everyone is. But yeah, at the moment, Turmo is the leading car on track. He'll be the first one to set a lap time, provided he doesn't get a track cut. He's just coming through the turn, I think that's turn 5, the hairpin, which is just heading into the infield section of the circuit. So there's actually a lot of cars that have jumped out onto track now. So I think it might even be a worry for Turmo that he gets around to start his lap while cars are still warming themselves up. So he might even run into a bit of traffic in the last section of his lap.
I think he's looking okay at the moment because there's no one out in the pit lane yet, and he's coming around to the 3rd sector.
Yeah,
now.
but you wouldn't want a dawdler. You wouldn't want someone like Brendan Ross or Steve Burko who are just out of the pits 20, 30 seconds ago, taking a long time to get around to the front.
Yeah, so here comes Turmo now to start his flying lap. And you're right, there is some activity at the pit lane. So Cracker's on his way out of the pit lane now, and he's done pretty well there to fall in behind the car starting to final lap. But he's come in front of Dimitri.
Dimitri's right behind him.
Yeah, so this is the important bit. And Cracker's done the right thing here, just allowing enough space there. You can see it there as he goes through. Turmo spent a fair bit of time on that lap, weaving, trying to get tyre temperature into this Dodge Viper. Down to turn 5 now for the hairpin. This is where the elevation change starts to kick in. It goes up and up and up and up and up and over the top. So that's the real elevation change. And then from here it all starts to run downhill again, and then there's a little bit of uphill and downhill in the final sector as well.
Got Rody start his flying lap right behind Brian Walsh, and it looks like we've also got that is Yomi Hama right behind Brendan Ross as well. So a couple of people starting their flying laps very close to other people. That's going to really affect their lap times potentially. So there's another flurry of activity with Mike Coulston and Peter Savage leaving the pits now.
Just on Rody, he actually went wide at turn 2, so he's already thrown his fast lap away, so he's probably not going to feature up the head of the field. Termo has hit 59.9 to the second sector, so not blistering pace. In fact, Zach Ross has the fastest first sector time at the moment of a 31 flat as Termo comes through the final two corners to set the first lap time of qualifying this evening. Let's see what he's able to produce.
We benchmarked the race laps around the 27s to 28s, and Termo's gone and done a 28.8, so not too bad. But let's see what comes in afterwards. That'll be what the killer is. Who can set the laps after it? Dimitri goes with a 2 seconds slower. There he is, already immediately pushed in.
The top.
Yeah, Zach Ross straight to the top with a 28.2. Burko follows him. Look at the margins, very, very fine. The two Bentleys very close together. And then Manuel Centino's gone with a 35, and he's only been in the server for a short period of time too, so he has not had a lot of time to put some practice laps down.
Yokohama's got two purple sectors so far, 30.8 to the first sector, 28 flat in the second sector. He's just about to come across the line to set
Brendan
here.
Ross. So Rossi goes pole,
Brendan Ross goes
followed by
just
Yokohama.
ahead.
Now, I reckon that might have been team orders there between the two FCR teammates, just following each other, giving a bit of a tow. The faster car giving possibly the slower car a little bit of a tow, and that's worked really well for them.
Yeah, that's worked. They've gone 1 and 2 right there as Mike Coulson comes across to start his lap. So he's actually got a relatively empty track ahead of him at the moment.
And I've got Cracker on a fast lap now as well, but he's behind one of the BMWs now. I believe that's the one of Lime Mitch that he is behind. Now, Lime Mitch, I believe, is on it. So it's Dimitri. No. Okay, so I got that statement wrong. I do apologise. He's coming into the pit lane. So, oh, no, he's not. That's really nasty. And Dimitri now cannot set another lap. If he sets another lap, he is going to be disqualified. Oh, and that's terrible. That is not good at all. That's compromised Cracker's lap. And that is definitely going to be looked at in between sessions. I would not be surprised to see that time from Dimitri deleted and removed. So that is terrible luck for Cracker. And not
just to go, so we've got another large amount of activity in the pit lane. We've got Luke Joyner, Lime Mitch, and Aaron Thomas going out. Looks like we've got another set of teammates going out together. And I think in the background, we've got Greg Tara coming out as well.
That's a little bit of poor form, I think you say. That's this is the first qualifying session of the series, so you can understand why something like that's happened. But that should be a pretty significant warning to everyone of the problems you can have in this sort of qualifying, and to maybe be a bit more courteous to other people. As we've got Mike Coulston come across the line, he sets a 29 flat to go into 6th place.
We're about to have Pete Savage complete his lap as well. Now, he was purple to the middle sector. He was 6/10 clear of the Brendan Ross time. So this could be our first time in the 26s, and it is. To 26.7. Very, very nice for the big Bentley. Goes straight to provisional pole position with 3.5 minutes on the clock. But we are yet to see a couple of the heavy hitters start to make their appearance. Noah Tara is still in the lane. Luke Joyner out there as well. So we cycle through trying to pick up. See, there's one of our heavy hitters in the lane, Lewis Wedding. Lime Mitch is a pretty handy qualifier, so he's out there now. And we're looking to see Will Devonish is now rolling down the lane. So that's the next one that we are looking for. The man who was oh so close for most of the World Series and then threw it away by no fault of his own in Istanbul and was right on the back foot. And looking also to see where our reigning series champion is from the World Series. There he is, Steve Bolger, carrying the number 1 just ahead of Will Devonish on the track.
It's going to be interesting to see where these people who are seeing their times late, as Lewis Wedding leaves the pits and Lime Mitch and Aaron Thomas start their fast laps along with Greg Tara. It's going to be the track evolution, even though it's only a 10-minute session, will still count for a little bit because the track is just slowly rubbering in. So it's going to probably gain you a tenth or so coming out a bit later, but you don't want to come out so late that you're going to have traffic with all the other people trying to do that as well. So these people who have left their lap to the end is still a good half the field, really. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Watching Steve Bolger at the moment, up through Sector 1. Coming down to the hairpin for turn 5. Looks pretty...
It's a little bit of a slide on there,
yeah,
but does very well.
Yeah, a little bit of a slide on. Pretty well controlled for most of it, but only a tenth down on the Peter Savage time. That's not too bad. Will Devonish is just coming
Matt
to
Schwartz
the...
goes third.
Yeah, good lap from Matt Schwartz. Slots right in between the FCR cars. As Will Devonish on our other screen just starts his lap. Oh, Steve Bolter, big slide job on coming through, which corner was that? That was coming through Revolver corner, I think. That's down at turn 7 on the infield here. Wedding getting out of the way. That slide's cost him too. It's cost him 0.3 of a second, that little sideways moment. But this is what this session is all about, and this is what this type of racing's all about, being able to push, and extract the maximum from the car, and maybe just overdriving a little bit there.
Mitch has gone second.
Line
Wow,
Mitch is a
well done,
handy,
Line Mitch.
Line Mitch is a handy qualifier. We knew that from his Super 2 form, and bolts up into
Greg
second.
Turra immediately replaced him. Aaron Thomas had an absolute mare of a lap down 17th.
And Bolger manages second, so he managed to hold his
Second.
own through the final sector, so that's not too bad.
Wedding has started his flying lap.
Yeah, we pick Lewis Wedding up now. We're watching Will Devonish on the other side at the moment. Now, he wasn't too bad to the first sector. Middle sector's not too far away from coming up for him. In actual fact, we'll go and pick him up. Here he is.
And 58.6, 2/10 down on Peter Savage to the middle sector. So we've just got this last tight complex of corners uphill here, very much off camber. You don't want to bring the throttle up too early because you can see the slope of the track there. And then you plunge back down the hill through these final 2 corners. Very smooth through the penultimate corner, now into the final corner. Gets the power on very nicely, very stable through that final corner. Let's see what Devonish can do in that Lamborghini. Crosses the line, and it's a 26.9.
Found a little bit of time in the last sector as well. He was 2 and a bit tenths down at the second sector split, and he found a bit of time. Now, Noah Tara has not made it out of the pits, so he is not going to set a qualifying lap, so that's a bit of a disaster for him.
That's certainly a disaster.
With Lewis Wedding, the only other man on track that can set a lap.
Looks like he's going to be around about third at the moment, unless he has a mega final sector.
Yeah, he's going to be third based on current pace. Tell you what, he wouldn't want to split the difference between Bolger and Greg Turra, would you? Just looking at the numbers there on the left-hand side of screen. Wedding's time looks like it's going to be a 27, and he goes 60.
He's
lost some
a
time. Wowee, and he's not happy.
Unhappy about it.
Oh, yeah.
He's decided to merge his car with the wall into one entity.
Yeah, he definitely did.
Well, that was started and done before you can even blink. That was in a very close qualifying session through the midfield.
And the big drama that I'm sort of worried about is not seeing a lap from Noah Tara. Now, I don't know if that's technical related or if that's some other sort of issue he's having, but his father Greg was well and truly up the order in 4th place, and his son has not been able to get out there. Now, I'm still waiting to get some word through whether or not the incident with Dimitri is being reviewed or not. I would imagine it possibly is, but we're only going to get... Now, the other thing too is there's only a 5-minute warm-up session here in between the sessions. So what we'll do is take a very short hold for a moment here while we let that warm-up session run out. Gents, who do we think's out of position here? I mean, we know Noah Tara's quick and he's sort of down the back, but Bagsy, you called that Aaron Thomas had a really bad, well, basically a nightmare of a lap there, and I think he was like about 3rd or 4th row from the back of the grid, so he was buried.
Well, Aaron Thomas went out with his teammate sorry, not Dimitri though, in line Mitch. They came out and they started their lap together with Aaron Thomas right behind line Mitch, and one driver, I think it might have been Brendan Ross, following behind them. And then when I was staying on the pit lane to see who was coming out and who was coming in, and line Mitch comes past, sets his really good lap, and then Brendan Ross comes along and there's no Aaron Thomas. So yeah, his lap, he said a 1:35. He was 9 seconds off pole basically. So definitely had an issue there. You can really tell sort of when people have had issues on their laps and when they haven't.
Just a sidebar to interrupt the discussion we're having at the moment. Just got a message from Peter Savage in the Discord chat saying that his game's crashed. So
this is not the first time this has happened to him as well.
No, so hopefully he will be able to get back in during the warm-up session to resume or to take up his pole position, because otherwise he could be down next to Noah Tara and we could be talking about 2 of the possible front runners relegated to the back of the grid. And as it stands, he has gotten back in the server, but at the moment his position on the screen that I've got is 22nd, not number 1.
Yeah, and that'll be to do with the fact the session has rolled over into warm-up, so he's been able to get back in, which means that the grid is based on the qualifying results, so there won't be any trouble there. And this is why we extended the warm-up session just to 5 minutes, just in case some of these little gremlins came up. They did want to put it to a 3-minute session, but it sort of didn't allow enough time if anybody got the boot and needed to get back in. Well, I can exhale here finally now, gents.
We can take a breath.
We can take a breath after all of that.
While we've got a bit of time, maybe predictions for who you think's going to go well in the race, who's going to win.
Well, judging by some of the pace that we've seen in practice, it's hard to go past people like Devonish and Pete Savage, who are up the pointy end of the field, not only in practice, but when they could hold their own in the World Series as well. Pete Savage taking a win, Will Devonish with a couple as well. So those guys are probably heavily favoured. But don't count people like Greg Turr and Steve Bolger out of the mix here either. That's probably one of the better qualifying sessions I think we've seen from Greg Turr, being up in the top half a dozen spots. And we've seen even when he was peddling the Porsche in the World Series and other series before that, where it was quite underpaced in some things, they were able to extract quite a good amount of pace for what it was worth at some tracks. And I think that this circuit probably favours Greg's style a little bit more. He's actually been doing pretty good things in the ARW ninth season with the Super Tourers, just starting to find his form there. And with his internet issues out of the way, fingers crossed, he's sort of started to really show what he can do.
Yeah, and hopefully these races are short enough that internet issues won't become a problem for him. His internet just needs to last for about 35 minutes and it will be fine. For me, you've got to pick from Devonish Bolger or Savage at the moment. In terms of just the out-and-out pace, they were the ones who were ahead of the pack by a fair way. But you never know what can happen. It just takes a little incident between the front runners, a little mistake. We've seen all of these drivers make mistakes at one point or another where they've just taken a bit too much curb and spun. And in a short race like this, it's probably going to cost you a lot more because you're not going to have the time to extend out the advantage. I think back to Bathurst when Will Devonish basically just dominated the race. And he, I think, may have spun once in that one. I'm not sure if my memory's failing me there or not. But even then, he had so much time where he could have had so many issues and still won that race by a country mile.
He did really well in that Bathurst race, but the one thing that curtailed him was, for all the pace that he had, the safety car always seemed to ruin it.
Which you don't have to worry about now.
Yeah, correct, which doesn't have to worry about. And on top of that, with the pit stops as well, whenever the safety car came out, he always seemed to come out behind everybody else when he was leading the race going into the pits. So all those elements for Will are off the table. This kind of a series, and before we go to Michael for his predictions, this kind of a series would favour a couple of people that are not here tonight, I'd imagine. Some really quick guys showing their hand in other series. One of them is Luke Rosella from the Supercars series. He's actually got a wildcard entry into the GT3 Sprint Series. I believe when we go to the Bend, we should see those Audi R8s come out, him and a teammate. Brenton Foley, who's also doing a wildcard, I think really excels when the heat is on and to hot up the pace, and Xeris as well, who's not here. With the strategy element completely removed, I would put my money down on Xeris taking a win at some point if he was to jump into the series.
Yeah, certainly. And it's kind of a different mentality between this sort of short, sharp, aggressive sprint race to the longer format that we've been so familiar with over the past few rounds. I remember we were talking to Will last time out at Watkins Glen, and he said that for the longer races, he can just sort of get in the zone and be zen and be comfortable. But whereas when it comes to those shorter races, he kind of gets ahead of himself to the point where he starts making mistakes. So I wonder, you guys were talking about Will and his chances earlier. I wonder if that might come into play, that he might get a bit too hot-headed, and maybe some of the guys like Lewis Wedding, who is a bit more cool, calm and collected, but still has that innate racecraft, might be one of the people that might come to the top of this series. So that Lewis would be my pick, although we saw in the World Series that he didn't quite have the pace in that AMG. He's moved over to the Acura now with Mike Coulston, so maybe the different car will bring him some different results.
Yeah, that's a good possibility as well. Lewis Wedding is someone that, he did volunteer his time for most of last series to do the live stewarding, which was very grateful of him and very gracious, just given that he was only appearing in select rounds anyway, but to help clean up some of the problems that we did unfortunately have, which were through no fault of us, but they were just through the game's fault, that he was able to come along and help clean some of those up. But he is someone that I think can potentially have an impact on this series if the circumstances and the stars align.
Certainly, absolutely right. We've seen his quality time and time again in other races, not just in GT3. So he's certainly going to be one to watch. But at the minute, it looks like Peter Savage and Will Devonish at this stage are going to be the ones to keep an eye on.
And Bagsy, this is an interesting one too, as we're just getting the grid sorting themselves out here for the first race of the evening. The Bentley is not really a car that we sort of really tend to associate with, going as quickly as they are. Like the Lamborghini was the car to beat in the World Series just gone, and lo and behold, there's one on the front row, but there's also a Bentley to go along with it. And like I've just seen now, it looks like we just ticked back into a warm-up session for there must be a couple of dramas going on in with the grid, so I believe it's
I believe Mike Coulston's game crashed from the looks of it, because he left the game as we went to the grid, so I think that might be why we've restarted.
Okay, we'll take a few moments there.
And just a quick update as well. Just looking through some of the text log on the server. Dimitri, sorry, whereabouts has it gone? It's all moving around very, very quickly. Dimitri S has been moved to the rear of the field for the indiscretion in qualifying for affecting Cracker's lap.
So that's good to see that has been picked up and confirmed. And we did see that. Look, he had set a lap. I just wasn't sure when I was watching whether he was going back to the pits or not. But then all of a sudden he came back onto the circuit out of the pit lane and really ruined Cracker's lap, and I didn't quite see what sort of sectors that Cracker was doing, because the one thing we're struggling with at the minute is live races as being, our timing system is being a little bit of a pain in the proverbial at the moment. But
to put it nicely,
but it definitely did affect his lap, and the door banging, I guess it wasn't the session for it. The door banging comes in the race session, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly right. There should be no contact in practice or qualifying. There's just absolutely no reason for it. So unfortunate that had to happen. But at least everyone has an example of what not to do now.
That's right.
And knows the repercussions.
What we might do while we are having a very, very short intermission here to try and get the last little bit sorted is we'll have a bit of a look at the upcoming events for Automobilista Australia. So after the very, very busy week that we had 2 weeks ago, where there was 5 races in 5 nights, there was pretty much nothing last week aside from a little get-together just to set up and tune night. So it's back to normal over the next week or two. So tonight we've got the GT3 Sprint Series. Tomorrow it is the resumption of the ATCC Group A Championships, or round 3 from Winton Motor Raceway. Michael, you and Chris Kiwi Riddell are going to be taking care of that one over at the Endurance Chat Media channel.
Yes, our little pet project now. The first 2 rounds of that series actually quite well contested between a variety of different cars. They're still tweaking the balance between everything, but going from Simmons Plains, where we were last fortnight, to Winton Motor Raceway is like chalk and cheese in terms of the characteristics of the tracks. So we should be in for a very challenging night for some of the drivers in some of the faster cars, dealing with something that's a bit more difficult, a bit more of a more difficult track. So yeah, that's been a lot of fun, and the group over there for the TCAC ATCC championship is a great group to work with, and yeah, it's certainly a great fun series,
and very heavily supported as well, with quite a large number of cars turning up each round, which is great to see. We've got a resumption of Super 2 this coming Friday, so the circuit that some people love and some people don't love. I'm in the second of the camp. I don't mind the circuit, but it's hard for me to drive. It's not my best circuit, let's just put it that way. But I'm there competing nonetheless, along with a fellow commentator from Supercars, Hans Brunswick. We're teammates for that one. And that's Super 2 on Friday night at Mount Panorama. We've also got ATCC Group A again. It's back-to-back weeks for you guys. You've got another one next week at Pukekohe Park Raceway. That's next Wednesday. So a couple of the ATCC rounds going back-to-back. And then next Thursday, resumption of Supercars action. And that one takes place from Hidden Valley. So a return to the sprint race format for Supercars at Hidden Valley. And just as a heads up for everybody who watches the Supercars stream, be sure to tune in for a special announcement on that very night. We've got a little something in the works, and we're going to reveal all on Thursday night, the 23rd of July. So if you love your Supercars racing, you will want to be tuning in for that one.
That sounds very exciting. I wonder what it could be. Any hints at all, Nether? Any hints you want to give us?
No, I'm not going to give anything away just yet, but let's just say there's a little special promo that has been put together, and we will be revealing that promo to the AMS Oz community on that particular night, and it will reveal all about something that we're putting together for a bit later this year. But that's the night we've chosen, so please be sure to tune in and have a look at that little promo video. I'm sure you'll be delighted to see what we've got in store coming up a little bit later on this year.
You're selling it very well. I'm very excited.
Well, I'm selling it because I'm kind of proud of the multimedia effort that I've gone to put that one together, given I'm not a multimedia person, but I'm sort of slowly teaching myself bits and pieces, and a number of the admins have had a look at that video and thought it was a bit of a cool type of thing to do, so something a bit unique. So we sort of said, you know what, why not?
I'm intrigued. You raised my curiosity, Nether. I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen.
As I say, all will be revealed in time. Still, we've rolled back to another warm-up session here, so I'm wondering if we might just get Bagsy, if you might want to duck off and just see if what's going on with the server, and just keep us in tune with what you might find. We're a bit devoid, I guess, of things to talk about here, but one thing that we touched on just in that qualifying session there, Michael, is the cars. A number of drivers have opted to change cars. Actually, probably about 2/3 have opted to go to some sort of different machinery. Some of the stuff that we see, Will Devonish and his Wedding Crashers Racers crew have gone and retained the Lamborghini. Lewis Wedding, we already mentioned, swapping from the Benz to the Acura. The Matt Harvey Repair and Tune guys have gone and stayed with the BMW. But one of the other cars that didn't get a look in, and we did get a bit of capture on this on the broadcast, is the Gravel Rash Racing guys have gone and swapped to the Jaguar.
Yeah, the Jaguar. It's the XJR. It's the XK G3 that they've gone to. So the G3 is a particularly interesting car because it's not technically a GT3 car. And, people argue, yes, it raced in the Blank Paint Endurance and Sprint Series, which is under GT3 regulations. And that's all well and true and good. But the thing is, it's actually homologated under a specific Belgian subset of GT3-like regulations to allow it to undergo more development in a quicker cycle. Because the reason for that was the team who was running that particular car, Emil Frey, actually built the car themselves. They didn't get any sort of help from Jaguar. They basically bought the Jaguar XKRs and built a GT3 car out of it with Jaguar's blessing. So it's a bit of a unique thing, and they were well off the pace for the first 2 years of their real life endeavor, real life time frame. But they actually built that into quite a competitive car in the end, and actually led the 24 Hours of Spa at one point. So it's really interesting to see the G3, the XKR, make its debut in AMS Oz, at least for this year. And it's a surprising number of teams have picked it up. So not only the Gravel Rash guys, but I think someone else has actually grabbed the Jaguar as well.
Yeah, there's another one there for Manuel Santino's gone and grabbed it as well. So
yeah,
he's another one
Wildcat.
in the Wildcat livery. So there's at least 3 of them out there, and another of the other teams is now looks like we're getting the grid getting ready to go as well. The guys who ran the Aston Martin in the World Series, which was Termo's team, they've all gone and swapped to the Vipers, and there's a bit of a unique logo on each one. So if you look very, very closely when you see them going around, you can see there's the Viper in the back there, one of them, which is Glenn Miles. That one actually has a Nintendo 64 logo on the bonnet, and then Rhodey's one has an Xbox logo, and Termo's one's got a PlayStation logo on them. So nice little touches to go with the colours of the livery, and actually they sort of really go together quite well. You know, Termo's got the Nintendo blue, Rhodey the Xbox green, and Termo the PlayStation red.
Yeah, it's a nice little rivalry in that team. So nice little Easter egg for people to find. But honestly, I gotta say, the grid, the colors and liveries on this grid rival what we saw in the World Series prior, and as well with what's coming up in Porsche Cup that's due to commence in the next month, I think. Just the quality of liveries that have been produced has just gone absolutely out of this world, and it's a very, very pretty grid when you look up and down. It's something I'm actually really excited to be a part of, to be honest.
Yeah, hats off to everybody that's done a really solid job with these liveries in all the series, done really, really well. Bagsy, time to hit the grid. It's a short lap and it's a big field. Oh, I think.
Oh, is Bagsy back?
He's back here, but I think he must be having a little mic issue or something at the minute here, because I can't see what's going on there. I might quickly run through the grid on his behalf then while he gets himself sorted. So Pete Savage has got the pole, managed to snatch it away from Will Devonish aboard the Wedding Crashers Motorsport Lamborghini. The reigning World Series champion Steve Bolger is in third place, and Greg Turra in the Petty Rivalry Motorsport Nismo Nissan GTR. Very, very vibrant livery, that one. Lime Mitch, the first of the BMWs for the Matt Harvey Repair and Tune squad, out of 5. Lewis Wedding, first of the Acuras, out of 6. Brendan Ross, the Nissan squad, sponsored by FCR Motorsport, out of P7. His teammates back in P9, separated by Matt Schwass's Gravel Rash Racing Jaguar. There's Kenzo Yomihara in 9th place, and then rounding out the 10 is the teammate to the pole sitter in Zach Ross, also aboard the Bentley. The third of those Bentleys in the squad is Steve Burko, the Lou Sim Sport Bentley in P11. There's the first of the Vipers in Termo, and we've got an Acura off the road there. Looks like it's Lewis Wedding's had some sort of drama. I'm not sure what's going on there. His teammate, Wilston, is in 13th place. Luke Joyner, also the Wedding Crashers Motorsport, out of P14, that's the Hollinger gearbox car. Cracker out of P15, the sole Lexus in the field. Brian Walsh's Lamborghini out of 16. Then back to newcomers, Bagaccino, playing Lucino, in the Team Frog Ferrari 488. Aaron Thomas, who had a shock in qualifying, out of 18. Manuel Santino in the Jaguar in 19th. Noah Tara, who didn't set a lap in qualifying, out of 20th. Then back to Dimitri, who was penalised for his indiscretion. Coulston's gone back to the garage. Rhodey out of 23rd, and Glenn Miles out of 24. Here comes the field. 30 minutes of counting, but they cannot start until they get to the control line, which is now. And away they go for 30 minutes of sprint racing. Devonish looks like he got a slightly better launch, but he's going to have to yield position to Pete Savage going around the outside. He'll be on the inside for the second turn. Looks pretty well behaved so far here, gentlemen.
There was a little bit of side-to-side action in the mid-pack between a few of the Nissans, but they all managed to file through without too much incident. It is Peter Savage who takes the lead of the race as they go into the hairpin at the top of the circuit, using all of that banking to get the power down and fire out the other side. Not too much movement down the field. In fact, it looks like Brian Walsh has jumped up a few spots, as has Noah Turra. He's up 4 spots already from the start. Here we go down the fastest section of the track towards the back end of the circuit.
Bagsy, we got you back at the moment?
I believe so.
Yes, we do.
Beautiful.
Just need you to boost
So
your mic.
everyone-
Might have to boost your mic there a little bit for us, buddy, just to be on the safe side.
Everyone accordions up together through that slower section. In fact, Noah Turra has been forced around the outside of that infield section, but it seems that the front group have separated themselves, got a little bit of track space, at the moment. It looks like Lime Mitch might be a little vulnerable to Greg Tara as they come up the hill. A little bit of a wobble there and a few side-to-side moments further back.
A little bit of a moment for Greg Tara too, dropping 2 wheels in the grass at the on the exit of turn 10. He's not quite vulnerable just yet to the other Nissan behind him, Brendan Ross. Then Matt Schwass in behind him. But look, there's a few cars going wide. Turmo getting boxed out. Getting contacted by Mike Coulston. And Brian Walsh is in there as well. So there was a little bit of aggro at the final corner. And we might go back and have a bit of another look at that
one. Coulston has already DNF'd.
Yeah, so I think maybe he thinks that one might be on him. But let's pick this up on the replay because where was Turmo? So he was in behind Burko. He was just ahead of Luke Joyner, and Coulston was in behind him. Oh, I think maybe he got a little bit of a nudge from Joyner, and then Coulston got in there, not trying to mind his own business, and then Brian Walsh was caught up in it. So probably no fault of Turmo's there. Maybe it looks like he may have got a little bit of a nudge from Luke Joyner.
Just as an aside, do we have 2 Mike Coulstons? Because it looks like there's a Coulston in 15th as well.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we've got a bit of an issue if something's gone on there, because you're right, there is a Mike Coulston in 15th.
That is quite strange.
Yeah, unless the timing screen was having a little bit of a hissy fit through all of that.
There's definitely a Mike Coulston that is also retired in the garage. That's very strange. Also, I'm not sure if we picked up on the broadcast, I had some audio issues. Lewis Wedding down in 23rd. I'm not sure what's happened there.
We did see there was an issue. Oh, we just picked up a contact with Steve Burko. Now, that was, I think that was Yomihara that's gotten into Burko down there at the one of the very tricky infield corners.
Another spin. Burko returning to the track. He's actually knocked Cracker around on that very difficult top corner. There's another one behind him. Dimitri S is
Dimitri's come out in front of Rhodey and then caused impact with Brian Walsh.
It's chaos. It's chaos. We expected this. So let's go back and have a look at the Cracker incident. So Cracker and Coulston were going side by side for a little bit here, and there was a bit of contact ahead. You can hear the panels rubbing. Cracker's come around the corner and done it all by himself. So that's through no fault of his own, but we didn't quite capture the other incident that went on after all of that. And actually just seen Dimitri having a bit of trouble rejoining the track as well. So already a few retirements in this one. Savage out in front from Devonish and then back to Steve Bolger. That's all settled down. And the real action's down the mid-pack. This battle from 10th on back is getting very, very feisty indeed. Lime Mitch doing well in 4th. And then Aaron Thomas, who's progressed his way through the field quite nicely with all that carnage, is up 7 spots to be just on the edge of the 10 here.
So, something that's even more impressive is Noah Tara up 11 spots, currently in 9th place.
Yeah, there he is.
After only 2 laps.
Yeah,
he's done well to avoid and take advantage of all the fracas that's gone on around him. Both him and Thomas have done well. Thomas actually has a bit of a run on Luke Joyner as they come up the hill. He's on the outside there. The camber is very off there, so you can't really get the power down as quickly as you want. And now that's a little battle train between Joyner, Thomas, and Burko as they come around onto the main straight.
Can they get a nice little slipstream out of here or get a better exit? Burko gets a pretty good exit on Aaron Thomas's BMW here, so he might command a little bit of space when they get to turn 1 under brakes.
He's stalled out quite a lot there.
Oh,
he's going to have to be braver on the brakes than Aaron Thomas. Aaron Thomas is just going to drive around his outside and maintain that inside line for the next set of corners.
Yeah, and as they go over the hump here in the center of turn 2, it's really difficult to stay 2 by 2 there. And in fact, Thomas gets a great run as they head up towards the circle. There's a yellow flag. And
Greg Tara's spun.
He
spun right in front of this battling pack. He goes 3 wide into the corner.
Oh, and Burko with a big send.
He has absolutely sent that through on Aaron Thomas, but Aaron Thomas is not going to let it lie that easily. He goes side by side.
Let's have a look at the Tara.
All the way down the main straight here.
Just getting the replay of the Tara incident. Oh, big whack of the wall too. Tara got caught up on, I think that was the turn 4 curb in pursuit of Lime Mitch. That was a huge off. Very, very lucky for Greg Tara, and now he's got this really angry train behind him.
Yeah, as Aaron Thomas held it down the inside of Steve Burko. Burko tried to go around the outside yet again, wasn't quite able to stick it, and almost lost the place to Coulston behind him. But this battle pack was a pack of 3, is rapidly becoming a pack of 5, 6, 7 potentially. Although Greg Tara looks like he's getting on with it away from this group again. Yeah, we've got Aaron Thomas has gone quite wide there, but still up 7 positions. This whole group here, Luke Joyner up 4, Aaron Thomas up 7, and just behind them coming up to this battle is Bagacino Bagasino. I'm not sure exactly how you
Sino.
say that, but anyway,
I
he's
think
got
it's
3
Sino.
positions. He's
Bagasino.
doing quite well.
Yeah, Bagasino's
I'm-
kept his nose pretty clean just to stay out of trouble here, and just going to probably wait for some of these guys to maybe run a few panels and stem one up the inside. I'm probably suggesting where I think you're going to go here, Michael. There's a Brendan Ross in pursuit of a line Mitch a little bit further ahead.
Yes. You preempted me perfectly. Yeah, here we go. The BMW versus the GTR heading down the back straight. Gap is less than 2/10. It's basically a car width. Now, can Ross try at something deeper under brakes? No, he backs out of it there. That's the hardest stop on the track. You're going from about 260 Ks down to less than 90 kilometers per hour through that section. You've got this really tight infield section here. Now, can Rossi get a bit of a nicer run through that section? Yeah, he does. He tries to look for a move, but there's not really much room there on the inside, so they make the trek back up the hill. It
Oh,
is
sorry,
as you were.
guys. A bit further back, Aaron Thomas, Luke Joyner, Steve Burko are all getting together.
Oh, it's
and
happening here.
Dimitri's gotten
Oh,
right in
no,
this.
it's been stunned.
Burko
He's been tagged by
around.
Coulston.
Burko's gone around, and he's lost a lot of places in all of that. There was a bit of bump and rubbing. We just caught to it at the right moment. So here it is on the replay. So Aaron
Now,
Thomas
there's a little bit of Dimitri's fault there as well, because
Yeah.
he's just gone and shoved himself
Yeah.
back into this.
Aaron
and-
Thomas was ahead, had managed to get ahead of Joyner, and they went the long way round, and big moment there, and yeah, there's a little bit of bumping and rubbing there. I don't think that. Oh, and then Coulston got into it. That's a bit of a calamity there, I think. And
Dimitri's a
Bagacino,
lap down as
yeah,
well.
he is too. So he should have been getting out of the way. And Bagacino, who was just said was keeping his nose clean, picks up another spot, but he did lose a little bit of his front aero fairings, having to avoid the spinning Lamborghini of Steve Burko.
Got a bit of a battle of the Godzillas here, which is fitting given we're in Japan, of Noah
Sorry,
Tara and
I'm-
Yamahama.
I want to interrupt you guys, sorry, because the battle for the lead is on. Devonish has cut down that gap to Peter Savage, set the fastest lap last time around, and had a bit of a go into that hairpin, but just got the rears a bit locked up and lost a little bit of time. But Devonish, once again, in that Lamborghini, showing he means business, as he's on the tail of Peter Savage in the Lucim Sport Bentley.
Yeah, we're keeping an eye on that on the other side of the screen as well, just to see that gap is only a half a second, but this is also a really thrilling, entertaining battle, the one that Bagsy just alluded to, the Godzillas going toe-to-toe, Noah Tara, and who's that one just ahead of him? Is that Yomihara there?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
Kenzu Yamahama, yeah.
Correct. So,
Noah's got him.
great launch, great run off of turn 10 by Noah Tara, and it's an easy
Well
pass.
done.
Very,
That
very
is
nice
13
job.
places up for Noah Tara now in 6 laps. In essentially 9 minutes, he has taken a place every 40 seconds
And
or
he's
so.
gone ahead of his father, Greg Tara, as well. There he is in back of shot. So you've got 3 Nissans, 7, 8, and 9. Yomihara's not giving this one up, though, but he's going to have a real challenge on his hands to stay with the young driver aboard the number 26. And it'll be interesting to see now how quickly Noah Tara can cut down the gap to the next man ahead of him on the circuit, who I believe is Matt Schwass. Correct.
Oh, a bit further up though, we've got Lime Mitch and Brendan Ross. Brendan Ross looks like he's going to make a move down into the final corner. He's not just yet.
No.
It's getting very close. We've got close battles everywhere. We've got the battle for the lead, which is still ongoing. Jovanic has just attached himself surgically to the back of Savage's car, and Brendan Ross has had a similar cosmetic surgery done to the front of his car and the back of Lime Mitch's car.
Yeah, there's plenty of cars giving the bumper bars in front of them a real working over. They're putting more work in than my mother-in-law, if I'm honest with you.
Nice. Unfortunately for Rossi in that battle with Lime Mitch, as they almost overlap coming through the penultimate corner, is that the BMW is so good on the brakes. It's so good on the brakes. So when Mitch hits that brake pedal for those bigger stops, he just pulls away just a little bit. But he's got a great run this time around coming down the main
Gotta
straight.
send
Is
it.
he going to pull out?
No.
I can't though. It's not really a passing opportunity. It pretends to be, but it's not quite there.
It's a straight that it is deceptively short. You think it's a lot longer, but compared to the back straight, it's really not quite there.
And as you said, Bagsy, they've also been stalling out when they try and make the pass. Now, I'm not sure if they're doing that because they're trying to make the pass too early. We did see Burko's, one of the Bentleys, stall out pretty early on down the main straight. You've really got to maximise your corner exit in a lot of these cars, and then you start to see the power of the draft. And the move has got to be almost super, super late in a lot of these heavy braking zones, but all about that confidence on the brake pedal, where the bias is at as well. You don't want to lock a front and then just go sailing straight on past either. You've only got 30 minutes to get the job done, so every opportunity that presents itself every opportunity that presents itself is super critical.
Just a quick update on a few of the mid-pack battles. We've had Yomihara have a bit of a spin around, I think it's turn 7, so coming back up the hill. We got a yellow flag in the final sector as I'm watching the leaders come through.
Yeah, it's around the final corner. I'm wondering if that's just someone who was on the that had a spin near the pit lane and maybe has gone into the pits. I'm actually just about to cut to that battle because Devonish is having a bit of a look down the inside of Pete Savage. He's decided to pull the trigger, and he's got the job done. Savage gives him a little bit of a bump on the return there. The Devonish is through. Round the outside, not quite on that particular occasion, but the next opportunity is going to be down at the hairpin. Savage is right with him.
He's still got a run here.
Yeah, he needs to fight it. I was about to say, probably needs to fight it straight back. Oh, a little bit of a touch.
That was a bit of a touch.
Will Devonish getting his drift on with a bit of assistance from the big Bentley behind.
They managed to get it through, so Devonish takes that position. I don't think Savage has quite the straight line speed on this occasion to make a dive for it. Not this time around. With that little bit of a touch in the mid-corner, it kind of forced Peter to pull the throttle a little later. So he's now stuck behind the Lamborghini, the SimQ Wedding Crashers Motorsport, now sporting a bit more black than blue than last time. So that's the change for the lead. Now, can he step back at it through this section of the track? It looked like the Bentley was a bit more nimble, which is a bit surprising for the size of the car. But no, Will's got the move confirmed this time around.
For all the pace that Noah Tara's had as well getting through the field, he's been able to take about a second out of the deficit to 6th place Matt Schwass. So with still 16 and a half minutes on the clock, it's not insurmountable that he could actually knock off another position and get up to 6th place by the end of the flag.
Brendan Ross is having a big look at Lion Mitch at the moment. He was absolutely tucked up as they're going down the main straight.
Done the same
into
thing
the first corner.
Got the same thing done that Devonish did. Oh, and the same thing on the return as well
Not
for Lion
quite
Mitch.
as effectively though, I think.
No. Lion Mitch has got a lot more commanding space around the outside here, waiting for our track camera to get done, and he's got the move done around the outside, and that's
very well done.
That's a
Lion Mitch.
very, very nice hold. We didn't quite see that on the replay because the trackside camera just cut to the wrong thing at the wrong time. So we might see if we can go and get another bit of a look at it.
Get the onboard if you can.
Yeah, here we go. Onboard from the dash cam. Now Rossi's off to the left, and then big commit hold. In actual fact, he managed to get down to the apex of the corner a little bit earlier as well. So
sorry, Peter Savage has got past Will Devonish down into the hairpin off the back straight.
Nicely done by Pete Savage getting the move done. So now this is music to Steve Bolger's ears as well, because Devonish is fighting this for all it's worth. These two are starting to lose time to the Jaguar behind.
Yeah, it was a well-done move from Peter Savage. Got the high ground on the corner entry and then forced Will wide over the next two corners. But you're right, that gap now between this battling pair as they come through the final corner and Steve Bolger is going to be less than a second and a half. In fact, it's probably even going to be less than that as they cross the line. We'll see the lap times update as they cross the line. A 26.8 versus a 27.6.
And the fastest lap of the lot for Bolger with a 27.693. So
he's smelling blood.
Yeah, he's like a shark in the water at the minute. He's just eyeing off these two, waiting for them to keep tripping over each other, and he's going to pounce if anything happens. For everything that's gone on as well, guys, I'm just looking a bit further.
Rossi's got the move done now, this time on Lion Mitch. Lion Mitch ran wide at turn 2, so that's now
it's not done yet,
It's not done. Rossi has to cover it, and he does. He covers.
Difficult to keep up with. There's so much going on.
Speaking of Rosses, Zach Ross in the chat had a game crash. That's the reason for his retirement in 23rd early in the race.
Yeah, so he was very, very early in the piece as well. I think back on about lap 1 was when we saw him exit out of the session, and also with Lewis Wedding having some trouble as well. That's why he's 1 lap down. We did see that car at the side of the road.
We also had Dimitri S call it a day, so he's in the pits as well, or in the garage rather. So your 3 retirements so far as the battle in the front rages on.
Sure does. Just looking down the order as well, seeing Termo after the accident that he had at the final corner on lap 1 as well. He's managed to get his way back up to 11th, in behind the battle with Aaron Thomas and Kenzo Yomihara, and they've actually just come together through the infield section of the course. There was a little bit of touch there, and Termo's now right with him as we get a fastest lap for the Loose Sim Sport Bentley. I was going to go back and have a bit of a quick look at that, because Yomihara was defending pretty heavily here from Aaron Thomas. You'll see Termo in the back a shot there. Yomihara goes wide. Thomas invites himself to the inside at the hairpin, and then there's a little bit of push and shove, and losing the back end was Yomihara, and that's what's put Termo right onto the back of this pair now.
I'm going to bring us back up to the front of the race because the race leader has just encountered a little bit of traffic, and that's allowed Will Devenish to really turn the screw as they head down the back straight. That gap only just a car length, but Peter Savage is playing defensive, and Devenish dives to the outside, seeing if he can use the banking of the corner to maybe wrap around the outside of the Bentley. But he can't do that. The Bentley's far too big as they dive down towards Revolver Corner. This is where the short track meets the main track, and then through the infield section. So Savage was lucky to get away with that there. He caught, I think that's Manuel Santino, just at the wrong time.
Yeah, it was.
Correct,
yeah. But then they're coming up on more traffic as well. We've got Glenn Miles and Rhodey, who are having an inter-team battle in their two Vipers at the moment. And they've been going hammer and tongs all race so far.
Yeah, here they are.
So they're going to be... it's going to be interesting to see if they try and use this traffic as an advantage on each other. Rhodey, I believe, currently following Miles.
Yeah.
Correction, the other way around. Miles is following Rhodey. So will Miles try and use this leaders coming through to try and jump his teammate?
This is the GT3 racing you know and love. Devenish looking towards the inside again as they come through the first corner side by side. A little bit of a touch in the middle there.
That's a big bump.
And Peter managed to hold it around the outside.
Bulge is right there now, and this traffic.
Oh, this is terrifying stuff. Miles scoots out wide. Bulger's on the tail of all three of them. They get past Glenn Miles. Peter Savage leads them through the S's onto the hairpin. Now Bulger's right in there. Devenish has a
spin for Rhodey.
Rhodey's gone off ahead of them.
Rhodey had a spin.
Managed to get out the way.
He's lucky that he spun to the right part of the track to let these guys through. Devenish was trying to use the Viper of Glenn Miles as a pick to hold Pete Savage wide and take the inside line, but it didn't come off at the right time for him.
But he's diving here now. It doesn't quite get it done. Yeah, it almost used the traffic as a pick there. But what this has done is this has brought the two leaders right back to Steve Bolger, and it's now a battle in three at the front. Bentley leads Lamborghini, leads Jaguar with just on 11 minutes remaining.
And I've just noticed as well, Devenish starting to drop, one or two wheels into parts of the circuit you don't want to. I did see him put two wheels in the grass there before, so he's just getting a little bit hot under the collar here, I think. Just a little bit impatient with the fact that he thinks that he's got the faster race car, but Savage is driving extremely well to hold off all his advances at the moment, and it's now starting to, as you said, just to come back to Steve Bolger a bit. Can he find a way through?
Devenish, the hunter, is now becoming the hunted because he's lost a bit of ground to Savage in this lap, and Bolger has stayed right there. And honestly, Brendan Ross has been closing in on this group at a not insignificant rate. So if there's any sort of argy-bargy between them, he's got a chance at a podium here too.
And
I appreciate your use of not insignificant.
Yeah, and Rossi's kicked away as well from Lime Mitch since he's cleared in the proper last time around as well. And Lime Mitch has now just cleared the traffic behind. Oh, big moment for Brendan Ross on the turn 4 curb. That's the same sort of thing that happened to Greg Tara, just didn't involve a wall. Great car control.
If we're looking back at other Jags and Nissans, the Jag of Matt Schwass, as Lewis Wedding sets the fastest lap back down in 21st place. It's a shame there's no points for fastest lap. We've got Noah Turre is closing in on Matt Schwass for 6th place, looking to claim his 14th victim of the night.
Yeah, that gap has gone all the way from, what was 5 seconds when he got into 7th place, and it's now been halved. So Matt Schwass is going to have an eye in his mirror for the last 9.5 minutes of this race. Just actually probably wants to not have an eye in the mirror. He wants to just have both eyes forward. He just needs to drive the thing. I don't know if he's saving a little bit of tyre here just to make sure he's got something to fight with at the end so he doesn't burn them out toward the end. But Noah Tara is coming and in a big hurry.
Just got eyes back on the front. This battle of the lead top three is the three protagonists that we had in the GT3 World Challenge Series, separated by 0.6 of a second across a lot of them. Peter was a little wide on entry there, and now the Lamborghini of Will Devenish is right under that big rear wing of the Bentley as they come over the hump in turn 2. It seems that Peter Savage maybe not quite got the pace in the first sector, but seems to gather speed as the lap goes on. And Devonish has a little bit more to the inside. Very
he
close
loves
there.
he loves taking that tighter line, Devonish, but unfortunately, it's been costing him on this next straight. Really, he should just be following in Peter's wheel tracks and then getting the better run out of the hairpin there onto this main straight, because we've seen how well we can get the power down at Lamborghini in the World Challenge Series. So really he wants to use those advantages and not try for some, sort of hopeful moves.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one there because the corner's so banked. You can really get the power down quite early if you grip it up right. So it encourages you to take that narrower line. But I think Savage has got it worked out that if you run a little wider, it actually keeps your momentum a little higher, which is almost more important in these GT3 cars as they come back down the hill through the last 2 corners of this track. 15 laps in the books when they cross the line. Yeah. And just under 8 minutes remaining.
We predicted we were going to get 22 laps as well.
Notar has arrived at the back of Matt Schwass now.
Yeah, I think there's been a few mistakes from Matt Schwass as well that have caused that to happen. And Brennan Ross has lost a bit of ground as well here to Lime Mitch, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Lime Mitch have another nibble somewhere. And he's having a little nibble down here at turn 1, but I don't think he's going to be close enough to have a look there. But here's this battle you were just alluding to, Bagsy. Matt Schwass is now going to be under siege from a rampaging Nissan GTR of Noah Turra over the course of the next 7 minutes. I think Noah might be looking for a move down here at turn number 5 as they head up and around the bend at the hairpin and up the hill.
Yeah, 30.2 versus a 29.4 last lap around. So Schwass is hemorrhaging time to the green Nissan behind him. And it's looking like Toro is trying to set up a move, as you said, down this back straight. Godzilla is looking
good run off the hairpin.
Yeah, very aggressive.
Got to go the long way though.
Homeland.
He's just going to try and go. He's just gone clean around the outside.
Well,
There's nothing
nice
could
move.
do.
Nicely
well done from Noah Turra.
And uses the camber of the road to his advantage as well to maintain the momentum. Schwass looks to fight it back, going through turn 7. Not quite close enough.
Matt Schwass let it happen in much the way that Lewis Hamilton doesn't let it happen to himself.
Topical. Very, very nice segue there.
If we go a little bit further forward, Lime Mitch is right back on Brendan Ross now.
One thing I wanted to pick up is the interesting line that the drivers take through the second to last corner. Almost got 2 wheels on the wrong side of the pit entry divider, and then 2 wheels on the correct side of the track, really milking that corner for all that it's worth.
I guess when you're not using the pit lane for any other reason, they're just going to use an extra piece of track tonight.
No, that's right. You're just going to commit as hard as you can, more than anything. But this is a battle where Rossi had kicked away. He was almost 2 seconds clear of Lime Mitch about 3 laps ago.
And yeah, he was closing in on the leading trio.
Where's the bad lap in this one, Michael? Has there been a real bad lap for Rossi at some point? Did he have a poor sector and a particular lap in the last couple or somewhere?
Unfortunately, with live races being out of action, can't really have a look. But at the moment, it doesn't really matter when the bad lap was because he's going to position now. Lime Mitch down the inside, heavy under brakes in that BMW and gets the move done. Now, can Ross hang
there's still some overlap there, though.
Yep, plenty of overlap. And Rossi's
Lime Mitch's gone very wide.
Yeah, you'll have to surrender that one back.
Yeah, no, and the thing is, in the middle, in that corner there, the camber is so off that if you miss your turning point, if you're a little wide, like Lime Mitch was there, he just shoots you out.
He's actually touched the back of him
on Rossi.
Good save there from Ross.
Save it.
Rossi's had a few moments like that in this race. There's been at least 2 of them where he's had some sort of opposite lock moment, and that's another good save. Just managed to have a look.
These guys are going to have to be careful.
Oh, just bring us back to the front. Peter Savage has lost the lead, and in fact, he's spun behind Brian Walsh. Not quite a full spin, but just a little bit of a spin on the uphill right-hander on the exit there.
Yeah, there it is. We're just catching it now. Now. He just tried to gas it up to get through, and Devonish went straight through. Walsh pretty much almost was just trying to stay as far left as he could to let the traffic through, but it was not to be. Now Bolger smells blood. He's got to get I was about to say, looking to get a good run off of this corner here, but he hasn't been able to make it stick. He drove it into the corner too hard. He needed to just go a little bit slower in and then maximise his exit to have a shot down here at turn 6, but he wasn't able to make the move stick.
we'll play a repeat of the Lion Mitch and Brendan Ross move as well, because that's happening again down into the hairpin. Lion Mitch, again, a little deeper this time.
This is
and
take 4?
3 or 4, yeah, but this
3 or
time
4,
Mitch
yeah. Oh.
actually closes the door and gets it, shuts Rossi out
Yeah.
of that inside line. So he gets it done this time around. We'll head back up the front.
Yeah,
It's
keep it.
really unfortunate for Peter Savage there. Just a little lapse in attention, and that was all it took.
Yeah, it's one of those things where they always say about if you're in first place, you're the one waking up the traffic that's
Yeah.
being lapped, and so really the traffic knew he was there, and he stayed in a spot where it should have been quite easy for Savage to just drive around him, and yeah, got a little bit happy with his right foot, and unfortunately cost him the position and potentially this race because there's only 3 minutes left.
Yeah, a little bit of lap traffic ahead of this this trio as well. I think that's Cracker in the Lexus is not too far up the road, so they might catch him between now and the end of the race. I was having a look back to see what happened to Brendan Ross, why he hemorrhaged a little bit of time. He actually wasn't setting bad laps. It's just Lion Mitch's laps to catch him were much, much better. There was a few high 28s from Ross, and there was a few high to mid 27s in there from Lion Mitch, so he just reeled the gap back in.
Well done from Lion Mitch then. That was, I don't want to say it was unexpected, but it is a little bit. Normally when you get past like that, you kind of, not that you lose your bottle or anything, but it's hard to start reeling that pace back in. But he's done a very, very good job to find his way back into 4th position.
Yeah, he done extremely well. Well, this battle for the lead is not over by any stretch of the imagination. Every time that Will Devenish has managed to clear the Bentley, Pete Savage has been able to stay with him and find some way to get back alongside. Now, he's only got 2 minutes to do it. And the lap times are in the
Brendan
minute
Ross
28
hasn't
bracket.
abandoned his quest for 4th place as well. And they're about to come up on the same traffic that caused Peter Savage issues before.
2 minutes left, so this is about to start lap 20. So we're going to get the 22 laps that we predicted. Fastest lap for
And
Pete
Peter
Savage.
Wow.
Here he comes again. Got his 3rd wind on. He's been passed twice. And then now this is looking for the 3rd pass to get back. And then hopefully, for his sake, permanently.
It should be 2 more laps after this one, I believe.
Yeah, correct. So our prediction was 22. Looks like we will make 22. Great helicam shot, just showing the different lines that everyone's taking through that hairpin. It's sort of like a multi-part corner.
It's like an inverted spoon. Except it comes up instead of down. So a lot of banking that you can use there to really get the power down. And Peter Savage has done that. And he's right on the tail of Will Devenish. It looks like they're beginning to just drop Bolger just a tad. Not a massive amount, but there's 2 or 3 car lengths now between the rear of the Bentley and the Jaguar.
Not enough that if one of them makes a mistake, Bolger can't quickly capitalise on it. Though.
Yeah.
Well, good driving
Cracker
from
does
Cracker.
a very good job to get out of the way there. He knew the leaders were coming through. He did not want anything to do with that.
Just looking down the field to see as well where some of the battles are going on at the moment. As outside of this one, Lion Mitch has managed to gap Brendan Ross just a little bit. Matt Schwass is doing pretty well to try to stay within 2 seconds of Noah Tara, and then it's Aaron Thomas and Steve Burko, the last 2 cars inside the top 10 that are doing battle. And they've actually got Lewis Wedding for company, who's a lap down at the moment. So lap 21, this one plus 1 more. And they were all pretty well, the top 2 are pretty well matched.
Slide
And
there from Bolger.
as you
Yeah,
said,
big swap.
yeah, that's
Big spot from Bolger, so that's kind of put paid to his challenge. Still close enough to capitalise if these guys make a mistake, but maybe far enough back now that that Savage doesn't have to look backwards, but can only worry about looking forwards.
Geez,
And he's
Savage
got
had a very good run
this
through
time.
that corner.
Yeah,
that was a beautiful line.
slightly tighter line compared to Will Devenish. Devenish tried to take a bit wider line to try and maximise the speed, but Savage cut it back and then got on the power a lot earlier, and now just drives
very good.
clean
Great
straight
step.
past. Now gets the block pass on. Got to get the block on. Devenish is going to stick it back up the inside and go around the long way if he can. Savage needs to box him out here. Just open the steering up a little bit, which he does, but he doesn't do it well enough because Devenish is going to go right around the outside of the next corner, and then he's going to be on the wrong side again for this next one.
He's still got the inside line here.
Great driving
side
from
by
the pair of
side
them.
going side by side going back up the hill. Now Will Devenish inherits the better line, and they're still going to go side by side. Can Devenish get the power down on exit? He does this time around. So we're coming down now to start the final lap in the first round of the GT3 Sprint Series, the first race of tonight, and that's actually encouraged Bolger to get back onto the tail. They're going to come across the line to start the final lap. 21 laps in the book, one more to go between this battle for the lead that has been raging on all race.
The bell lap sounds, white flag in the air, one more lap to go. They've got some lap traffic too. They've got lap traffic in the form of Glenn Miles and Bagasino just ahead. So
Peter Savage has got to be thinking, what do I have to do? I literally had 3 consecutive left corners where I had the inside line, and you still held it all the way out until you got to the next right-hand corner.
Yeah, he just needed to open the steering up a bit and get the box on and get his and box Will Devonish out there. Going to try to get out of the hairpin.
Beautiful run that time from Savage. Devonish took a bit of a narrow
he's
entry,
going
and
to try and
he's
use
pay the price for it as they go both past Glenn Miles, it looks like, as they head into the hairpin. Now, can Savage get the dive on? No. Glenn Miles has taken up that real estate, which has meant that the Bentley has nowhere to go that time around. And
Yeah,
he's pushing Devonish down the hill.
Yeah, I think
Devonish had a bit of a slipstream as well, which is what helped him out there.
Yeah, and I think Bagasino might be, I was going to say, he looks like he was just a little bit too far ahead to not worry these guys too much. He just needs to keep going, but if he'll have to be prepared to get out of the way if they catch him at a rate of knots. Savage is going to have to send it somewhere. I think he's only got one more opportunity left, and it's a second to last corner or the last corner. There's not much in it. I think Devonish might just...
Oh, the traffic's right there.
Oh, Devonish is just going to hang on here, I think. Oh, and there's contact.
That could cost Bolger.
Bolger!
Oh, no, he's not going to get it.
No, I think Pete Savage has realised that he gave him a rub there. Devonish going to get the chocolates.
From Savage from Bolger.
Devonish gets the chocolates from Bolger and Savage. Back to this battle closed up again. Lime Mitch is just... Rossi's not... I'm not sure if that's Rossi not happy or what's going on there, but there's...
I think they might just be happy about their little battle.
They might be happy about that battle. So 4th and 5th cross the line.
Next across the line, though,
Noah
6th
Tara.
place. Noah Tara. What an absolutely brilliant drive. 14 places in 22 laps.
That's it.
That's
Great
just
drive.
Well done.
From Matt Schwass. His father gets home for 8th. So Greg, both Taras inside the 10. Burko made a late pass on, I believe it was Aaron Thomas for 9th. And Aaron Thomas has actually slipped back through the order as well. So Burko will get it home for 9th with 2 Bentleys inside the 10. And then the top 10 is going to be rounded out by Kenzo Yomihara for FCR Motorsport. So 4 Nissans in the top 10. Geez, we didn't think about that when we were predicting things after this. 11th goes to Termo, and then that last minute fade for Aaron Thomas down to 12. Still up 6 places from where he started. The team Antara
home in 13th.
Yep,
Bagachino we saw at 14th, and Cracker takes home the last point-paying position in 15th.
So that means that of all of that, Walsh, Wedding, Rhodey, Centino and Miles, who all finished the race, do not score any points. And then outside of that, we did have 4 DNFs in the form of Zach Ross. Dimitri was out there as well. There was another car that was, and then 2 more cars that were there as well. They are the Luke Joyner car, and the other Mike Coulston car that's there is not the correct car. That was looks like there was a bit of an issue at some point there. So 3 cars retired out of the 23 car field. Both Antara cars getting home at least, despite the dramas that they had. Lewis Wedding, I'll be amazed to see what the cause of that was. We saw him pulled over to the side of the grid on the formation lap. Obviously, clearly had some sort of a problem, and has somehow managed to get going again, albeit a lap down, just in case anything happened. But the important thing for those guys that finish down the order is they get a second qualifying session to see how they go getting a bit further up the grid for the second race.
What an opening to the season, guys. What an absolute cracker of a race.
Battles all up and down the field, and it was hard to know where to look, to be honest, because we had so many. We had the battle, 3-way battle for the lead, which was excellent, and we also had the 4th and 5th place battle. We had Noah Tara just absolutely scything through the field, and that was very nice to see.
And we have our race winner with us in the booth, Will Devonish. First of all, congratulations on taking home the first race of the GT3 Sprint Series. Take us through that race, because it was an absolute cracking race from where we were sitting.
Yeah, it was a cracking race from where I was sitting. I'm pretty sure Pete will say the same thing. It was insane. I haven't had a race that close for quite a while, and I don't think it's ever heard of going side by side for a sector and a half at this track. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, take us through that entire spell, because we were absolutely sure that Savage had gotten past you when he got through on the hairpin. But running side by side, great respect from the pair of you there. But that was some wild stuff. How did you keep it on the island?
Well, I've been racing with Pete for a bit, and he's a driver you can trust to have around your car. So as long as you give him a road and a little bit of ripple strip, he's not going to spear you off. So yeah, just thought, got past him to a switch back, and if I can hold on long enough, I can get back in front, and it worked out really well.
Yeah, you can say that again. Finally, how do you transition your brain from going from the endurance format? Last 2 weeks ago we were at Watkins Glen and you destroyed the field in a 2-hour race there, straight away into the sprint series, half an hour format, and you're doing the same again. How do you sort of switch your brain into that new mode?
Well, it helps not spinning the car on the first lap, um, as I did all through World Series. But yeah, I was being used to the V8s. That's always a sprint format, and I generally perform well there. I just have to switch my mind onto that in these, and these are a bit nicer over the stint anyway. So yeah, it's just nothing much we have to do. It's just go out there, fang it, and hope for the best.
Yeah, well, you did a good job of fanging it tonight so far. You got another race coming up, so best of luck. Congratulations on taking the race win.
Thank you.
I'll pass you on to Bagsy for the second place interview.
Yeah, we've got Peter Savage with second place, led for most of the race, and just looked like that little bit of trouble with traffic in the closing stages that might have been all that cost you there.
Yeah, well, they didn't exactly do anything wrong, to be fair. Like, they all stayed on their line. They didn't move. It was just me doing stupid things, thinking they were going to hop off the racing line, and I got caught in two minds and kept making mistakes. But that honestly was an amazing race. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it looked like you were all having fun at the front there, and it looked like when you did lose lead, it looked like just a little bit of wheel spin off the corner, and that was all it took to just get you a little bit off the line for Devonish to pounce.
Yeah, I've got to get used to this in the Bentley. It does, in my eyes, I feel like it is a much better race car than the Merc, for the fact of that I am not getting slaughtered down the straights now, and that's without needing to take off all of my aero to have even half a chance. And yeah, the tires really went off in that race, and I've got to try find some way to rectify that for the next one.
Yeah, I was going to say, going to the different car, you mentioned how it's better in some ways. Is the tire wear something that's worse for you and causing a bit more of an issue than it was with the Merc?
Yeah, I found in the Merc that it's just one of those cars that you have that car that just really, really suits you as a race driver, and that was my car. The Merc is 100% my car, but in all the GT3 racing, I want to drive every single one of them, because the only car I've ever driven before I joined these GT3s was the V8s, and I'm just enjoying driving all different cars.
I'm sure Floody will be very happy to hear that. But good job on second place, and see if you can go one better in race 2. Our third place driver, Steve Bolger, didn't end up really getting to have too much fun with the front two, but we're definitely there or thereabouts. We saw you drop back initially and then close up that gap again. Were you trying to find the spot to get past and couldn't quite get it, or was just sort of happy watching the battle in front of you, hoping for them both to knock themselves off the road?
I was kind of hoping for them both to knock themselves off the road. First part of the race was all just looking after tyres, but pretty happy to be within a second of the winner in debut for a new car, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, the same thing that I was talking to Savage about. What is your opinion of the Jag over the Lamborghini from last year? What are its advantages and disadvantages? What are you enjoying about it?
She's got a very loose rear end, which in some situations is great, but in off-camber error-generating corners, it's not very handy at all. So that's the bit of a tricky bit, and it uses tyres a little bit different. So I noticed when the guys was always struggling to just drive out of the medium speed corners. So coming onto the straights, the guys are always getting about 2/10 on me straight away. But otherwise, she's nice.
It was good to hear that you're enjoying the new car. What's your plan for race 2? Is it just go that little bit faster, or have you got something specific in mind?
No, let's try and go faster.
Fair enough. Well, thank you to our top 3, and good luck in race 2, which will be coming very shortly.
Thanks very much to our top 3 place getters for race 1 of a brand new series. It's, well, I guess what do we say, gents? I can't say we were bored.
No, we were having trouble keeping up. What
No time at all.
An amazing advertisement for the type of racing that we have going on here at AMS Oz. Just the top 3 battle for the majority of the race, and then the bigger skirmishes throughout the race. I think Lime Mitch and Brendan Ross a definite highlight for their battle for 4th, and Noah Torra, what a recovery drive as well after missing qualifying to come through and finish 6th place. So hopefully he can start a bit better this time around with actually getting into qualifying, which we should be approaching very shortly. But all in all, what a great start to the series.
Yeah, about 4 minutes away from moving over to the next qualifying session. I think the folks at Antara Resort Style Living will be pretty pleased to see what sort of racing we've produced over the first 30-minute encounter. Who knows, guys? We might have actually hit on something, because this is not a series that you often see in the sim racing world, let alone in real life. This just doesn't exist in real life, 30-minute sprint GT3 races. Maybe we might have to go knocking on some doors and see what goes on. Or if we start to see some of these type of events coming up, we can sort of say, hey, we had a hand in starting that.
It would be nice, wouldn't it? It would be nice. As much as that would be a beautiful thing and would probably draw in a lot of fans, I do quite like the more longer format pit stop strategy, driver change, GT3 world that we live in. It quite suits what I like to watch in a racing series, so don't want it to go away just yet.
No, not quite.
It could be the T20 to the one-day international of cricket, except in the GT3 world. You've got your T20 30-minute sprint, and you've got your 3 and 6 hour one days, and then your 24-hour test matches.
Yeah, I guess that's a fair analogy. Like, maybe not in this shorter format, but the SRO's GT World Challenge Sprint Series is certainly analogous to this, which is 2 1-hour races with a single driver change and over the course of a weekend. So I think they've not next week, because next week is the beginning of their endurance series, but I think following that they've got rounds at Brands Hatch and where are they going this year? It's all with real racing being all over the place thanks to the situation that we've been in. It's a bit hard to remember all the calendar changes, but this is certainly analogous to what goes in the real world, just maybe a bit even shorter. This is maybe a T10 to the real world's T20.
Yeah, that's some pretty interesting analogies there in terms of, the shorter format of some other sport, this being likened to the shorter format of cricket or shorter format of other forms of sport that seem to be the norm nowadays. Just one more race tonight to go, another qualifying session, and then in 2 more weeks the next one is the Bend Motorsport Park. And getting some word through in the chat, Luke Rosella watching along, he's looking forward to the Bend in 2 weeks time, and we finally get to see an Audi make an appearance on in the GT3 series, which it's good to see that a lot of the manufacturers are getting a bit of love, different manufacturers being all over the place. I think we've almost got every manufacturer represented across both the 2 series we've run so far this year.
And that's one of the hallmarks of GT racing to me, is the different manufacturers, different marks bringing their machine to be put into this unified set of regulations to enable them all to race against each other. Because you wouldn't think a Nissan GTR would be able to race against a Bentley Continental and then throw that alongside a Lamborghini Huracan and have them all produce similar lap times. But that is the beauty of GT3 racing. And in the real world, it's the beauty of the regulations and the balanced performance that makes it work. And that's why GT3 racing is some of the closest racing around the world at the moment. It's because the balance of performance works. And it is quite nice to see the Audi get a run next week, next time out, because Audi is one of the major forces in GT3 racing worldwide. And it does feel a little weird watching this sort of race and this sort of series and commentating on it and not seeing Audis out there, which is one of the reasons why I picked the Audi as my runaround car to have a bit of a laugh in.
It feels just unnatural at the moment for
It
a lot of
does.
for a lot of us just not being able to go to a racetrack at the moment, and that's the same in a lot of places around the world. So wherever you are in the world watching this live or watching this back, we hope you're keeping safe through these turbulent times that we're having at the moment. And I know there's a bit of motorsport that's just starting to surface again. You know, Formula One, the GT series worldwide as well. They're all just starting to get themselves up and running again. So I think things are slowly on the return, but we're not quite there just yet.
No, and
Not quite yet.
one of the reasons I can echo Luke Rosella's excitement for the Bend is because I haven't actually been out to the Bend all year since January. So it'll be exciting to at least visit that in a virtual sense for a change.
Yeah, it'll be our second trip this year in Automobilista Australia to the Bend. The other event that we had there recently was one round of the TCR series, which has gone on to hiatus for the moment. But I was actually looking forward to going to the Bend in real life a bit later this year, and those plans have unfortunately been shelved. I've been past it twice in the runs that I've done from Melbourne to Adelaide through some of the work that I do, and every time I go past, it's always blowing a gale. So I get the impression it's a pretty windy place to be. So I was looking forward to seeing it for myself and getting inside the circuit, but it's going to have to wait probably another 12 months, sadly. But it will be a bit of a learning curve for a lot of drivers that have not seen that track before. It's only 18 corners, but it's a fairly long type of a circuit and a lot of these sort of medium speed corners. So it'll be interesting to see how everybody tackles it.
Yeah, I'll let Bagsy talk for a change.
Yeah, I was going to say it's the Ben's track that, yeah, apart from the one go we've had in, I forget if you said it was TCR. We have run it in Automobilista Australia already, but it's a track that is still a very new track. It hasn't been around for very long. You know, it's you could measure it in months rather than years, really, since it's been opened, and no one's really had the time to think about, you know, a track like Spa, a track like Suzuka, tracks like Monza. These tracks have been there for so long, even if they've had some slight subtle changes to them. The general layout of the track is something that's pretty much burned into people's memories. You could probably take anyone from Automobilista Australia and ask them to draw Spa, you know, with their eyes closed, and they'd probably get a pretty decent approximation, or to describe the track layout and describe what the corners do. And yeah, it's going to be one of those things where that unknown and that lack of experience is definitely going to throw some interesting things into the mix. And speaking of interesting things, qualifying started, and the first people are starting to leave the pits.
Yeah,
Great segue.
Yeah, we got Kenzo Yomihara was the first man out of pit lane, and there's a steady flow of traffic making their way onto the circuit. A little bit more tapered than what we saw in qualifying one, where we had a couple of drivers go out and then a whole gaggle of cars come out behind them. It's a little bit more measured at the moment. I think we're one or two drivers short as well of what we had to start the last race. I count 21 in the server, and we did have 23 for the last race. So just working out who we are missing.
Looks like one of those who are missing is Lewis Wedding. I'll actually go check the track logs and see.
It looks like you're correct. It looks like he is missing off the list. I think as I go down the order, yes, he is. So
no, I've got him on in.
Oh, interesting.
He must, there he is. He's at the top. He's at the top of the pile there. So yeah, somewhere along the line we've lost two people. But we'll stay with Kenzo Yomihara, opening the account in qualifying 2. Oh, bit wide, and you will have ruined that lap just by trying to bite off a little bit more than he could chew at turn 1.
That's not a great way to start your lap when you're got a one chance at it, isn't it? It's unlucky for Kenzo Yomihara, but It's the pressure of the single lap qualifying. Someone else also on the single lap at the moment is Aaron Thomas. He's gotten out as early as possible. Doesn't want to repeat his misfortunes of last time out, so we'll keep eyes on him as well. Yomihara sets the first sector mark. It's a 32.4, I think I saw before it disappeared.
It's about 3.5 tenths off what the most drivers were doing in qualifying one.
Something to expect is some slower times, I think, in this qualifying session because the track grip has been reset. We haven't had a practice session in the lead up to it, so I believe we'll have a bit of a greener track, which will throw up some interesting curveballs. The grip isn't going to be quite where the drivers expect it.
Just watching Zach Ross in behind Kenzu as well, and he's about 1.5 seconds quicker than the Nissan already. So whatever the time is that Yomihara sets, take about 1.5 seconds off at least, because that'll be what the time from the Bentley behind, just coming into shot now, is going to set. So 130 odd for Yomihara, 130.3. So that means we'll see about a 28 or so from Ross, and we do a 28.5. Nice job, Kenzu. Thank you very much.
Well done, Nether. Great prediction. Thomas is going to come across the line next. He's probably going to slot in between the pair of them at 28.7.
He does. And it looks like Burko behind, I think, is he's getting ready to set another lap as well. And he does. He goes to the top. Not by much, though, either. Look at that for fine margins. 38 thousandths of a second. Not a lot in that. Here's the number 20 team Frog entry of Bagasino. About the same sort of lap time that Kenzu Yomihara did. So this is tracking toward a low to mid 30.
Brendan Ross has crossed the line. He's third place, 700ths away from the provisional pole. Very tight at the top at the moment.
Very tight in the early going. And the Ferrari is looking like it's going to be that mid 30. Actually lost a bit of time in that final sector and got out to nearly a 31.
Termo's put in 5th, but not quite as good a lap time as he was hoping for, I think.
No, definitely not. Brian Walsh has done a lap time as well as we cycle through the field and try and pick up.
Peter Savage has just started his lap.
So let's stay with our pole sit-up for a flying lap.
Should we jump on board?
Little miniature slide. And I think we will, actually. Let's have a look and listen to this awesome Bentley.
So we're coming through the S's here towards that hairpin, braking just beyond the 100 board for turn 5. And as you can see, the track rises and banks. He uses a very wide line there, does Peter Savage, to get all of the power down to head down this back straight. And he's up to the first sector, 0.17 of a second. Now switching into 6th gear just under the bridge and then braking just before the 100 board for this sharp sequence of corners. Again, the camber lets you use a lot of the inside, but then it swaps in the middle of the corner here. So off camber this section, back down the hill, use all the curb there on exit and on entry, and then the track rises just a little bit as we approach the second sector marker, and he's up again.
Whoa, 7/10
this time around. Wow. Now back uphill through this tight section of corners, first left, then right, and then you can see the slope of the track here as it tips away, and then the final 2 corners lead you back onto the main straight using all of the curb on the inside, and then a brake just off the edge of the curb to that final corner. Gets a nice run there, very smooth run. This is going to be a cracking lap from Peter Savage as he comes to cross the line.
Mid
and
27.
sets
Yeah, 27.4. Found time in every sector. Every single sector. So on a green track, very, very impressive lap time from Pete Savage. And that on board there, gentlemen, was just a really good illustration of how difficult this track is with all the changes of camber, all the different direction changes, and you've really got to fight the car. You've really got to keep it online at every single point. There's almost like a groove you can't step out of.
Exactly right, and that's why we saw, for example, Lime Mitch in his battle with Brendan Ross get it a bit sideways coming back down the hills because there's just no help from the track in that sort of section, which on the other hand is why it was so impressive that Devonish managed to go side by side with Savage for half a lap.
Noah Tara is going to qualify this time around. He's actually going to get a lap in, so it'll be interesting to see what his pace is in the 1 lap dash that he's qualifying, because we saw him drag that car up the field very quickly.
Here he is.
And
we'll have a
see
keep an eye
what
on
he
him.
can do. We've also seen, in terms of our front runners, our race winner Will Devonish has left the pits about 30 seconds ago as well on his out lap.
Bulge is about to start a flying lap as well in the next 15 seconds or so. while we're watching Noah Tara, we're just getting some word through from our fellow commentator Hans Brunswick in the live chat that Luke Joyner's DNF, and he's one of the drivers not back in the server, and it's unfortunately due to a bit of food poisoning, which is not good by any stretch of the imagination. We certainly don't wish that upon anybody. So look after yourself there, Luke. Get well. Hopefully tune into the live stream for the second half of the race while you're looking after yourself there.
Lime Mitch is about to set his fast lap, and he is going to not set a lap. So I'm not sure if there was a
did he
track up maybe,
I was
or
gonna
was
say,
that his? I'm pretty sure that was his flying lap.
Wow, that's
Wow.
unfortunate if he's missed out. Noah
No.
Tara's going to come across the line.
Second
He drops into
provisionally.
second place.
Second place.
He was okay, so he's jumped into second. The gap between himself in second and Brendan Ross in fifth is 1/10 of a second. So, and they're a second away from the lead at this point. So, amazingly close in that sort of midsection there between Taro, Burko, Ross, and Ross.
have a look at the times between Coulston, Yomihara, and Cracker there as well. 9th, 10th, and 11th. That's like less than a 10th between those guys as well. Bolger on screen at the minute, 4 tenths down through the second sector split. So he's tracking at the moment to go provisionally P2 with about half a dozen cars left to set a lap.
It looks like Lime Mitch is going to be able to set a lap. I've got his lap counter at 2, indicating his flyer, and he's very close, actually. He's only 1/10 away from Peter Savage's lap time to the second sector marker.
So
As
Bolger
Bolger
goes
sets
P2.
Yeah, so Bolger is P2, 6.5 tenths away. I've got eyes on Lime Mitch coming through the penultimate corner now. He
I
was
do as
1/10
well.
away at the the second time check. Oh, bit of a slide there in the mid corner. Didn't quite get to the apex. Let's see if that damages his lap time coming across the line. And it's a
P2.
28.2.
Wow.
Again,
Very
just ahead of
nice from
Bolger.
Lime Mitch.
Nice fine margins as well. The next man to get across the line is going to be Rhodey in the Xbox One Dodge Viper. And then Will Devonish has just gone through the second sector split as well. So he's just on the road behind Greg Tara and Rhodey. So we'll stay with Rhodey just to see what lap time he sets. But the Nissan's getting a little bit of a draft from the big rear wing of the Viper. Rhodey's going to go with a 32. Tara goes P2.
Tara goes second.
Devonish goes to... Where did he end up?
He went to P2 as well.
P2 as well. So, wow.
Half a tenth ahead of Greg Tara.
P2 changed positions hand over fist in the last 2 or 3 minutes. It was originally in the possession of Bolger, then it went to Lime Mitch, then to Tara, then to Devonish, all in the space of about 60
I
seconds.
believe the last person left
Wedding.
was Wedding.
Oh, and look at the time. The time is extremely close to Pete Savage. This is the closest that anybody's been in the qualifying session so far, and I believe he is the bit of a lock-up. Now, he's the last man on a flying lap. Glenn Miles has not left the pit lane, so he's starting stone cold motherless last. Wedding, too much track.
Going to cost him.
I'm not sure if he's going to get stung for a track violation there, but
Oh,
look at the
Bidding's very close.
That just goes to show you how much time he had carried up until that mistake. He is wringing the neck of this Antara resort-style living NSX.
2 corners left now for Wedding. Let's see if he can topple Peter Savage, his Team Antara by Loose Sim Sport teammate from the GT3 World Challenge. Very smooth through the final corner. It's going to be very tight at the line. Lewis Wedding crossed the line, and it's a 27.8. He got to the third.
He got to third, but he faded. That was the problem. He had.
That last sector was not very good for Lewis Wedding, but
look at the
he'll be
margins
hopeful that he can
again.
actually start in that position.
The margins again, Wedding to Devonish is so tight. And then look at these guys, 5th and 6th. And then look at Burko and Noah Tara and Zach Ross, all those, and Brendan Ross, as you guys called it. There's so finer margins in there as well. So good to see that everybody is really pushing the limits of these cars and pushing them hard. But hats off to Pete Savage, 2 poles on the night. So he'll be pretty happy with that. The next challenge for him is to convert one of them into a race win.
And he got close last time out, so it'll be fascinating to see what happens tonight in this second race, especially with the likes of hopefully Lewis Wedding and Noah Tara getting into the mix as well, because we could have a top 6 battle here, which could be enthralling. And remember, I think it was Brendan Ross last time out in that battle for 5th. He's qualified down in 8th place, and he's only half a second away from third. The margins were that tight. So we could see a ding-dong battle for most of the top 10 in this second race this evening.
Bagsy, I reckon there's a lot of battles that we could see in this. If race one's anything to go by, with some of the quicker cars that we had spoken about at the top of the night now being in position, anything could go on here.
Yeah, well, if we have a look, Noah Tara, 7th place, that is a very good position for him to start in, because we saw his pace was good enough to pass pretty much everyone behind him up to that point through the race. So now that he's starting on the 3rd row, on the 4th row, right behind C. Bolger, Lime Mitch, Greg Tara. I mean, we saw he finished ahead of Greg Tara. He finished ahead of Lewis Wedding, possibly because of Wedding's issue. But he could be definitely competing with these front guys. We don't know how it's going to... Bolger's probably unhappy because he had his 3rd place in the first race, 6th place this race. That is a big dip, and it's going to make it a lot harder for him to fight with those guys at the front.
Yeah, do you know who I think the biggest winner out of that qualifying session is?
Far away.
Savage on pole?
I mean, Savage is certainly one of them, but I think it's us. Like, if you look at how close the time gaps are and the quality of the field and the type of people that we saw have problems in qualifying in the first race, there's no way we don't get treated to another classic, right? This is going to be great racing.
This track has really turned it on, and this is an inspired choice. Like, all 6 tracks that are on the calendar and the series overall, I mean, we've got to take our hats off to Mike Coulston on this one, not only for organising the sponsorship with Antara for this one, but for designing a series that already, after one race in the opening round, seems to be absolutely turning it on, and the track selection is a gem. I just think that tonight is a big winner overall, just for the kind of racing that this track has allowed these cars to produce in such a short time frame.
Yeah, I mean, side-by-side racing for the lead is really what it's... I wouldn't say it's the end goal, but close battles for the lead is what you want. And being able to have cars like Devonish and Savage going side-by-side through 4 consecutive, or really it was 5 consecutive corners almost, is really what you want to see. And it was happening all down the field. There were so many battles that it was hard to pick one to focus on. We focused on the front battle at the cost of some of the others. We missed some things in the front battle because some of the other battles are so good. It's a good problem to have for us. We're almost always able to cut to something to show you instead of having to wait for a little bit.
It's the adage of being spoilt for choice, isn't it?
100%.
All right, well, we've got about 3 more minutes to have a drink of water, to take our breath, and for me, finish off a Strepsil. And then we're going to get going with the second and final race of the night.
You're working that hard, Leather.
Well, I have been a little bit under the weather recently with a cold that I caught from my daughter, which we did have the COVID test here, and we turned out negative, so that was all good. So still trying to get rid of the last of that, but yeah, talking a fair bit on a night like tonight, especially when you've got to raise your voice a bit as well. When you get excited, sort of doesn't do much for the old throat, does it?
No, not at all. In fact, I might need to go and treat myself to the same thing now as you speak of it, so I'll be back in a sec.
All right. Well,
I have no Strepsils in my house, so I'm just going to continue drinking water. But luckily for me, I talk for a living, essentially, so it's not so much of a problem. I've gotten used to it.
Yeah, I guess I've gotten used to it over the course of time as well. You know, with the times we live in, having more modern or different means of communication now, seems to be a lot more phone calls and a lot more video conferencing meetings than normal. So everyone seems to be talking a little bit more than they ever sort of did prior to COVID hitting. But
sometimes for the good, sometimes for bad.
True. While Floodie's off organising himself, let's go back and have a look at some of our predictions. I mean, we did predict that the winner was going to probably come from the top 3 cars in the last race, and we weren't wrong.
It's not exactly a difficult prediction to make, is it?
No, but I get the impression that somehow this race could be... I mean, the front row we've got is an identical front row to what we started with, but from there on back, it's a little bit more mixed up. There are, as we said, a few cars that were out of position in race 1 that showed their hand, and now those cars are in position for race 2. And I mean, the obvious one there is Noah Tara, but do you think Greg Tara is going to rebound from this one? I mean, he was my one that I sort of thought, well, keep an eye out for him. If he gets it going, he's going to be, right up there. But he did make a couple of silly mistakes that put him out of commission quite early in the piece. But Can he
Yeah,
rebound?
he felt a bit off the pace compared to, say, Noah Tara. Noah Tara was really on the pace, and I've got to say, Noah Tara, I believe I was commentating on, and both of us were commentating on his first race, where it was a bit all at sea, but definitely coming in as a young bloke, really his first introduction to sim racing, as far as I know, and he's gone from strength to strength from then until he's one of the better drivers in our field. Not quite able to compete for wins yet with like of Bolger and Devonish and Savage and Wedding, but I think it won't be too long before he's up there because he is definitely a talented kid and he's going to do very well.
Yeah, plenty of talented kids in AMSOs coming through at the minute. A lot of talented guys in Super 2 actually as well. Some really good youngsters there. Noah Tara applying his trade in the Supercars Super 2 series there as well. But I think the GT3 is sort of a little bit more suited to his driving style. And we've got to remember too, Bagsy, last year he did lead a good portion of the 90-minute race at Jerez before he got a little bit hot under the collar and made a few mistakes. But he's got it in him, and this is the thing. There's guys that we keep an eye on all the time, like your Lewis Weddings and Will Devonishes, the guys that are at the front of the field continually, but then we've always got our eyes on these upcoming drivers that are just starting to throw down the gauntlet a little bit. So Pete Savage, you put him into the equation. Noah Tara's one. Then you put Steve Bolger, who's managed to finally show that form in the World Series that he started to show in the last series at the back end of last year.
It was definitely a breakout series for him last series, and so much of a breakout series that he won the whole damn thing with a race to go. So it'll be interesting to see who that person is from this series. Who's going to be that person who gets that first time win in the GT3 cars?
Yeah, spot on. I think we've been rejoined by Michael for the second race. We're just waiting to get all the cars gridded up by the looks of things.
And unfortunately, Lime Mitch has had to leave. Unfortunately, he's just typed in the chat that he had to go and will not be competing in this race from the looks of it. So that's unfortunate for us. He had a very good race in the race one.
Oh, that's a real shame because remember, he qualified quite well as well. So we won't get part 2 of the epic battle between Brendan Ross and Liam Mitch this time around. Yeah, well, I hope whatever reason he's had to leave so suddenly is not anything untoward. That's a real shame for us here tonight.
No, there has been a little bit of a nickname given to him over, I think, on the TCAC channel for some of the races. I think it was Lime, My Planet Needs Me, Mitch. And that was to do with precisely this, having to disappear at short notice to get a few things done. So probably got some personal dramas to attend to. Bagsy, now that you're back, you can have the honours of whipping through the grid for race 2.
All right, race 2. Peter Savage on pole yet again. 2 races, 2 poles. Can he make this one a race win like Will Devonish did? He did it from second last race. Is he going to do it again? Lewis Wedding had an issue at the start last race, but he's now starting from third alongside Greg Turra with a very good qualifying. Steve Bolger in 5th, who dropped a couple places from that first race, alongside Noah Turra, who was the absolute gun of race number 1, up 14 positions. Go watch that if you missed it. Steve, better than Chris Pither Burko, is our 7th place driver, and and that is a reference that we will not bother explaining, but people will know what I mean. Zach Ross in 8th with a good qualifying for him. He'll be hoping to gain some positions this race after a game crash in the last race meant he DNF'd. He's alongside the other Ross, Brendan Ross, who had a very good battle with Liam Mitch, who unfortunately is not competing in race 2. Aaron Thomas in 10th with a better qualifying than he had last qualifying. He was in 17th for the last race, starting 10th in this one. We'll be hoping to side his way up the field a little bit. Matt Schwass ended the previous race a bit ahead as we had someone go wide his head, but he didn't have as good a qualifying as he would have liked, down in 11th. Termo in 12th in the PlayStation Viper there. Mike Coulston for Team Antara in 13th. He's alongside Kenzu Yoihama, who is in the GTR. We've got Cracker in 15th with that almost Lotus-inspired livery there with the gold and white, but I believe it's he's got a Johnny Walker on the side though. We've got Bagacino for Team Frog Brian Walsh in 17th, Rody 18th, Dimitri 19th, and Glenn Miles rounds out the field in 20th place.
Got to remember too, everybody from about 5th on back moved up one spot because of Lime Mitch not being able to take part in this second race. There's already a bit of faking out going on here. Have a look at Steve Bolger trying to get a little bit of a look down the inside of Greg Tara as they approach the control line. And away we go for another 30-minute sprint. Savage got a pretty good launch that time. Devonish was a little bit asleep at the wheel, but now he comes late, Will Devonish, and tries to send it up the inside. Now trying to lead from the front, but Savage gets the better of the exchange, and he leads now through turn 2. Again, all pretty settled in the early going. Lewis Wedding's looking pretty racy on the back of Will Devenish's Lamborghini as they head up to the hairpin for the first time. Tries to switch to the inside. There wasn't any room there, though, and he got hung up on the curb.
Bolger's off. Big crash for Bolger.
Oh, Steve Bolger off in the background. That
crash.
is massive for Steve Bolger. He's lost a front wing and everything, and he's dropped to the back of the field. What on earth has happened there?
Oh, he got his 2 wheels over the inside curb.
He just dropped it himself.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Now this might be...
And Lewis Wedding has a big dive on Will Devonish, but way too deep and way too late.
We're having a look at the replay for Steve Bolger. This is, if I think this is what it is, there's Wedding going across the thing. Oh, and Bolger got hung up on the curb the same way that Greg Turra did in race 1. And has come off, unfortunately, second rate of that one. And
Wedding's having another dive on the inside of Devonish. He's looking very racy in that NSX and gets it done very deep again.
Oh.
Almost traps off the circuit. Now he's got that inside line. Can he hold it around this time? Yes, he does. So Wedding now up into second place. That's let Peter Savage gain a massive amount of time. He's already gained about a second and a half at the end of this first lap.
Check out the damage on the front of Wedding's car as well. He's been doing some nosing about. It's missing the accuracy.
Wedding did the same thing that Bolger did going across that curb, but he managed to hold on to it just as he has a big lock up into turn 1. But Wedding has just gone capital A aggressive at the start of this race. He is not taking any crap from anyone else in this field. He's just going to try and zero in on Peter Savage.
Have a look at this train though. There's a train forming while Devonish tries to go with Wedding. Noah Tara's up 2 spots, now knocking on the back door of his father, Greg Tara. Oh, and a big bit of a late send from Steve Burko. No room there at the hairpin, and then in behind them, Brendan Ross and Zach Ross, the 2 Rosses, Linus Stern in the Bentley and the Nissan. So I don't know if Tara's being...
Coulston and Bolger have both pit to try and repair damage. They're both going to be missing their front wings for the rest of this race, though.
I've just had a quick look at what happened to Coulston. He just got hung out to dry at the entrance to the Revolver, turn 6, heading back down the hill and spun it back across the track. So that's what's happened to Coulston as we come back through the field. And Savage has managed to check out as Wedding gets another little lock-up. He seems to be very heavy on that front brake pedal, and it might come to bite him later on in the race if the tyres start to go away. But at the minute, he holds second place from our race 1 winner, and they've started to separate themselves from the Tuz gang.
Yeah, Greg Tara leading, still leading Noah Tara here, and Greg's trying to move away from Noah, but there's not really a lot of separation over the course of a lap at the moment. They're both pretty evenly matched.
And that was true for a lot of practice and qualifying as well between the Tara gang, Nara and Gura, as we name them in the practice server. We haven't brought that up yet, but they've got a little bit of a train behind them beginning to form as well. Greg just holding up the group behind, featuring Burko, Brennan Ross, and Zach Ross. This time it looks like the Bentley behind them has got a great run. In fact, Noah himself has got a great run on his father as they come down into the hairpin. Is Noah going to be brave on the brakes and try and make a dive? He doesn't this time. He likes to just sort of sit there. Remember, while it is a sprint race, we do have 26 minutes remaining, so no need to go hell for leather just yet. As Burko just goes a little wide in the background, opens up the door for Rossi, and they're going to go side by side through that corner. But at least on this occasion, the Bentley holds its position.
We're going to have we've got the Battle of the Taras, we've got the Battle of the Rosses, and we've got Burko right in the middle. There's Ross on Ross action just here. Brendan Ross gets into the back of...
No, that was Zach Ross.
Zach Ross gets into the back of Brendan Ross, gets him all out of sorts, but no positions lost for any of them. All they've lost is a little bit more air between them and Burko, which he'll be a bit happy about. He's in a little bit of a tiny no man's land at the moment, but has brought Aaron Thomas back into it.
Yeah, fast lap for Lewis Wedding that time around. There's another battle pack starting to form up behind as well. Kenzo Yomihara and Termo. Now, Kenzo's has moved up a couple of spots by virtue of Bolger and a couple of others dropping off the road. This battle was getting tucked in behind Matt Schwartz, but he's just managed to get a little bit of separation over the last half a minute. And
Yomihara almost had a look that time around.
Yeah, the couple of wheels in the dirt there as well. So look at the different line here. Yomihara with the tighter line, and then Termo with the slightly wider line as they head up the hill. And Termo's going to hold this comfortably into turn 6. Oh, getting a bit close for comfort on the rear end of Matt Schwass's Jaguar, and opened the door for Yomihara, who just said very, very nicely.
Arigato gozaimasu.
Yes, arigato. And
I knew what you were trying to do.
I was racking my brains trying to think of what it was that I just couldn't remember my Year 6 Japanese. Time! Oh no, we've lost it. Then round goes Matt Schwass. Now that was all of his own doing, but he did get a helping hand from Yomihara. He was already partway through the spin when it happened. So here it is. So this from the other angle. And you'll see here, Bolger, just overcommits to the next corner, does Matt Schwass, and he was already going around. There it is there. The back end kicks out, and he was already on the move, and then got a Yomihara with nowhere to go. Pretty much just helped the Jaguar on its way around the corner.
While I've been looking at that, Noah Tara has gotten ahead of Greg Tara now into 4th place.
Great minds think alike. I was just about to say the same thing. And just behind them as well, Burko and Ross are resuming their battle with the gap between the pair of them diminishing by the minute. Greg Tara just ran a little wide at the final corner and allowed his son through. And also, that gap at the front, yet again, is coming down as both Wedding and Devonish have set fastest laps over the past two to attach themselves onto the tail of the Bentley out front.
I think Savage may have realised that he doesn't actually need to do that much given how much these two have been fighting. He just I think Wedding had a bit of a twitch there. And there Devonish gets in the back of him. But yeah, I think Peter Savage has realised that he doesn't need to do that much. He just needs to maintain a nice level of lapping where the gap just stays at about 0.7 of a second, 0.8 of a second, and these two behind are going to keep whacking each other and using their tyres, and he's just going to be able to drive away in the last 10 minutes of this race.
Yeah, well, he's already stretched out a little bit more this time around, about a second. In fact, he was almost half a second quicker than the pair of them behind, and they're very close together now as they come over the hump at turn 2. This time it looked like Wedding has just a little bit more on the exit there, so he stretches out a car length, but it's certainly nice to see the Acura get a proper run up the front this time around after Wedding's earlier misfortunes, knocking him a lap down before the race had even really begun earlier tonight.
Just having a look a bit further back as well, now that Noah Tara has been able to clear, there he is in back of shot, he's been able to clear Greg Tara. He is starting to pull away, and he was a 1/10 of a second quicker than this pair on screen on the last lap, even though he did have to negotiate Greg Tara. So now that he's got some clear air, I'm going to be keeping a real close eye on his times just to see how much time he is taking out of Devonish. So just in sector 1 alone, it was a 31.0 and a 28.3 for Devonish, and Tara was a 30.8 and a 28.1.
I was just going to say, if you look in the background of that shot you had up, you'll see the battle for the minors. 6th place, Brendan Ross, Zach Ross, and Steve Burko. They were running side by side, Ross and Burko, Brendan Ross that is, through the middle sector. And then Burko managed to get a little bit of a gap, and then that put Ross into the clutch of the other Ross, Zach Ross.
Yeah.
But they've actually managed to sort themselves out, and they'll go again.
They've started to slowly catch back up to the back of Steve Burko here as well.
Brendan Ross has run very wide.
Yeah, Rossi ran very wide, and there was a bit of sideways action from Zach Ross as well, and very narrow.
I think he saw Thomas coming and wanted to maybe step off the apex there to avoid a plane crash. And there's yellow flag further up.
Yep. So I'm wondering to see who's
Not
off
sure
the
what
road
for.
here. There might have been
It
a
was
DNF.
Rody. It's Rody a lap down. He's gone straight on at the hairpin.
Oh,
so
he's he's way out in the weeds there.
Here's
That's why
the
the
here's the
yellow
Brendan
flag was
Ross
there.
moment. So just getting on the power and did the same thing Yomihara did in qualifying, just getting on the power too early at turn 1, and the car just understeering wide, and then just stayed off the racing line to avoid coming on at a bad angle for Aaron Thomas's BMW.
Unfortunately, while we've been watching all that, we've had our first DNF of the race. Mike Coulston has called it quits. He's typed into the YouTube live chat that he's just got too much damage. So, unfortunate night for Mike. Didn't really get going in the first race, and then second race, first lap incident taking him out.
Rody is, speaking of Rody, he's still just sort of sliding along the wall. And
Yeah, I've just noticed
and
this
has
as
been
well.
since then. So I'm
Brendan
wondering
Ross
if
is
he...
sorry guys, Brendan Ross has just gone through an Aaron Thomas, but you're right. I'm going to cycle up to find him because here he is, and he's been doing this along the grass for the better part of the back straight now. I'm wondering whether he's got some sort of a drama or like some damage of
Maybe
some
a
nature,
puncture.
or a puncture.
Maybe a
That's a
puncture, yeah.
possibility. So, and he's got that's Steve Bolger going through, I believe, is it?
yeah,
yes,
that's
it
putting
is.
him a
Yeah.
lap down though on Bolger. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if he's had some sort of sim failure
Yeah,
of some
I reckon.
kind,
I reckon
maybe?
that just looking at the angle that car's at, that to me looks like it's a puncture. That car does not want to really steer in one direction.
Looking back to the
Oh,
front,
and a big
it's on
lock
for
up
the
as
lead
well.
between it's on for the lead between Wedding and Peter. Wedding dives down the inside of the hairpin, goes way too deep, and Peter takes that position back. So led for a moment did Lewis Wedding, but the Bentley of Savage brought that position back to him. But Wedding is certainly looking very racy as he gets a big swapper on over the curb into the second sector mark. So that Acura is looking very, very racy as we are just over 10 minutes into the race.
Bit of Morse
And as a
code on the
group,
rear
they're
as
all-
well.
As a group, they are now starting to drop Noah Tara and Greg Tara. Greg Tara is actually closing up on Noah Tara a little bit, so the second phase of this race is going a little bit better for Greg Tara. But yeah, Noah Tara will be hoping for a bit of contact between these guys in the front, potentially a spin, because that could lead to a maiden podium for him.
Confirming as well, Rody's made it back to the pit lane. That looks like it was a puncture after all. Now these guys out in front, they're doing 27 or high 27s. Go back to Noah Tara's lap just gone was a 28.1. So you're right, Bagsy. They are, as a group, they are starting to work away from Noah Tara, and Father Greg is just chipping away, like just taking bits of ice off an ice block at the moment. He's just not quite quick enough to reel it in at a fast rate of knots, but he is slowly just taking little bits of time off his son at the moment.
Someone who may be quick enough, though, is Lewis Wedding, right in the wheel tracks of that giant hole that
Here he
Bentley
goes
makes.
again.
Is he better on the brakes? He is.
That's
but
a better
will
pass.
Peter just swap back. Oh,
Yeah,
it's much
well
better.
Nice block.
Much better done now. And Devon is just going to decide to try and buy. He's just like, I'm going to drive around the outside of you all over again. And Peter starts having Vietnam flashbacks to the last race. And he's managed to cover it off a little bit better than he did last race. So now Wedding in the lead, followed by Peter Savage, followed by Will Devonish.
Now, I wonder how much pace Wedding has underneath him, because he's been looking very aggressive in the first 9 laps of this race. I wonder if he has the capability to drop the battle behind him and zoom off into the distance in that Antara Resort Style Living NSX.
He's gone! He's gone! And that's he's going to have to come back on the track and be careful. He's going to get rounded up by the Taras here. That is not what you want to see. Now, Will's done this once or twice throughout the year as well in different categories, but that's a huge mistake, and he did it all by himself. Let's catch it on the replay. He didn't need to push at that hard, but I think he was trying to get a good exit and maybe go for a run down at turn 1, and he got hung up on the curb. That's what did it. He got too much curb on the inside of the final corner, and it just chewed him up and spat him out.
Speaking of chewing up and spitting out, Peter's trying to do that in these Bentley to the NSX this time around. Doesn't look like Wedding can just zoom off into the distance, but he's done a good job of blocking this time around. In fact, Peter did have the lead for a moment there.
This is something we've been looking forward to a while, because they've always, in the last series, there was either one or the other racing. I think this might be the first time we've actually been able to see them go head-to-head against each other. So this is very exciting.
Yeah, correct. There was a couple of times where Pete Savage did step into Lewis Wedding's Mercedes in the World Series, but they never raced on track together.
So it's like Noah Turra is now in the podium places and is going to be very soon under pressure from Will Devonish. But Devonish himself is having to think about Greg Turra right behind him. So you can imagine Greg Turra, he still wants to beat his son, but he'll probably be happy with Noah getting a podium at the expense of Will Devonish. And if he pressures Will Devonish into another mistake, well, all the more fortuitous for the Turra name.
That's it.
We've had another retirement. It looks like Bagacino has retired from the race. It looks like a disconnect, unfortunately, for the Ferrari driver. So unfortunate for Bagacino there. He's still ahead of Rhodey for the moment, though, which is always an achievement.
Yeah, so it won't take too long for Rhodey to wipe those couple of laps off that he needs to lap off to get back up into P18. And for Bolger, Steve Bolger, surprisingly, is only 6 seconds out of a championship paying point position, which is good for him. As here we goes, Pete Savage wheel to wheel with Wedding, and there's a bit of bump and grind. Wedding knew he was there and just sort of turned in a little bit, maybe tried to get a little bit of intimidation factor on, tries to switch back over and under, loses a part of the aero fairing.
Flying there.
Yeah, that's off the front part of the bumper, so all a bit of touchy-feely going on between these two guys in the motor vehicle
Wedding's
sense.
having a look in a very interesting place there.
Yep.
He's not shy about shoving that nose into things, is he?
Open the steering, Pete. I was about to say, you needed to open the steering and run him wide, but he's done the wrong thing. Wedding's got him on the switchback.
No, he's got the better traction, though. Well done,
Couldn't
Peter.
capital. Yeah, Peter had the better run there. This is top draw aggression from both drivers. Lewis, the aggressor, and Pete Savage now
weaving down the straight.
They're trying to shake him off.
Single-seater stuff from the
Oh, look at this. Noah Turra's doing
the same thing.
Noah Turra's doing the same to Will Devonish. Now, he's got to leave him enough space here, which he does. But Noah Turra is not going to want to give up this points-paying position really easily. I was having a bit further look back. Brendan Ross was having some trouble trying to shake off Aaron Thomas. He's finally managed to do that. And then a bit further ahead of behind him, there's this battle. Another Bentley on Bentley battle. Burko versus Zach Ross. So these two have been locked at the hip for the last 2 laps or so as well. And here goes Zach Ross standing inside of turn 5.
And gets
Very
it
well
done
done,
very
Zach
nicely.
Ross.
Now, just a bit further up, we've got Noah Turra and Will Devonish again side by side down the back straight. This time Noah's got the inside line and keeps the Lamborghini at bay. But
there's a very good defensive drive here from Noah Turra.
Yeah, very
and he's
smart.
going to have to put out all the stops as well, because Devonish is terrorizing the rear of that GTR, and it's going to be we're past halfway. We're 12.5 minutes remaining in the race, so we're halfway in. We're beyond halfway in, and it's going to be a long time to hold off Will Devonish for that entire length of time. But I think Noah might actually have the business to be able to do that.
I think
I'm not sure if he'll be able to do it, just because Devonish has had so much pace tonight, and he has had that little bit of an edge on Noah compared to Noah Turra's pace. But I think that every lap he's kept him behind is a very good achievement from Noah Turra, and it's only going to help him in his racecraft.
Absolutely.
This deficit.
He's driving.
He's gone up a little bit though as well by the fact that Turra's holding up Will Devonish too. It's gone up by about 4.5 tenths in the last lap. So the longer Devonish sits behind, the less likelihood of a chance it's going to be going. Oh no! Oh, he is around.
It's a big crash.
Yeah, he's gone well off the road. He's gone. You have to rejoin through the gravel trap at turn number 5, and through goes
Turra. There goes Noah Turra. There goes Devonish. There goes Turra.
Yep. So big mistake. So a little bit of over-aggressive driving, perhaps. Let's have a look.
Did we see what happened? Yeah.
We're about to get a look at it now. So they went through turn 2.
I reckon it's a
curb. I reckon it's a turn 4 curb again.
I was thinking
the curb.
Yep, did it again. It's the same thing. Oh, did really well to try and control the car and just get away with minimal damage there. So that's the same curb that has spat out both Greg Turra and Steve Bolger tonight.
He got away with it on lap 1. He did not get away with it the second time.
There's a bit of a drop-off on the backside of that curb, I noticed as well. As the car came over it, that right-hand side sort of just sunk into a bit of a hole. And then I think that's what's upset the balance of the car. He got to overcorrect it and straight into the wall.
Yeah,
so now
doing
Peter
a bunch
Savage.
sorry to jump in over the top of your bags here.
Yeah.
After doing a few laps in practice, I had something similar happen to me. So yeah, that's exactly what happened. It's a bit of a step there, and it really unsettles the car. So now, as Bagsy was about to say, Savage has a 5-second gap over this 4-car battle for second place, headed up by the green machine of Noah Tara.
Maybe not for very much longer,
there's
though.
a very good run for Will Devonish there. Is Noah Tara going to be able to hold it there? He does. So now, as we go back through down to the hairpin, Noah Tara has been very mature with his defense. He's not been falling for some of these dummies that Will Devonish has been throwing, and he's been doing quite well. And he's battling here for a podium position. He has a very good chance of podium position. Devonish gets an amazing run out of the hairpin there. He is already alongside, so you'd feel this one is a foregone conclusion. But yeah, this is all 4 people battling for 2 podium positions as they break down into the corner. Will Devonish just backs off a little bit.
Yeah, I was about to say, I wasn't sure if he went too deep there, or that he just...
Yeah, well, Greg Tara ended up going deep as well and almost lost the position to Wedding. Will Devonish is not giving up on this, though, as
elbows out for
shoves
Wedding.
it down the inside there. Well done from Wedding. He saw the gap and he went for it. But Greg Tara looks like he wants to go back for it. Not quite. Wedding closes the door. Noah Tara gets alongside him, though. He's going to try and over-under it. Not quite. A bit of a slide from Tara, and that's going to end that attack from him.
Greg had
but now Noah Tara has 2 very fast drivers behind him in Devonish and Lewis Wedding, and there are still 9 minutes left. It's only been 3 minutes since we talked about Noah still having 12 minutes to go with Will Devonish behind him. Well, now he's got 9 minutes with Will Devonish and Lewis Wedding behind him to try and get a maiden podium.
I was going to say, it's unfortunate now for Noah that his father has actually been pushed out there, because it was quite nice for him having that tail gunner there to put pressure on Devonish and maybe back up.
Sorry, that was
a bit of lag.
That was a lag issue. Wow, I was a bit worried there for a minute.
Hardy mouth stuff.
Another update further down the field, Yomihara has DNF'd, which puts Steve Bolger up into 13th. So a few more championship points for last season's champion as this group follows its way down the back straight.
Releases his car very well, sticks on the inside, does not give Will Devonish any chances into that corner. He knows where to block in that corner, but what he won't know is that last race when Peter Savage tried to just keep the inside line, and then Will Devonish just held it the rest of the way around on the outside.
Cracking stuff yet again in the GT3 Sprint Series, sponsored by Antara Resort Lifestyle. Is that what it is?
Yeah, Resort
Is that the plug?
Resort Style Living.
Resort Style
Living. Almost got it.
Almost got it.
So we're predicting about the same amount of laps again. So 22 laps, remember, in the first race. There's yellow flag in the final sector. And it's Peter Savage.
Oh, no, he's ready to go.
Oh, my God, he's round.
And this puts Noah Tara into the lead of this race. Another big moment in this motor race.
Which means this is now a pass for the lead as Will Devonish goes into turn 1.
Yeah, Devonish tries to seize the opportunity and is not going to be alongside enough to get the job done. I want to go back and have a look what happened to Pete Savage, because that was completely unexpected. Here we go. Round the final corner, he had traffic in the form of Glenn Miles, and there was contact. There was contact between the traffic.
Again.
The rejoin was pretty good for Pete Savage. There wasn't much else he could do in that circumstance, but traffic playing a factor again in sprint race. And the important thing for Pete Savage, he's not out of podium contention here. He needs to really get his skates on here, but what Noah Tara was hoping for is that Wedding was going to start to put pressure on Devonish again, and that's precisely what he's doing.
Well, he is right now, because Wedding's alongside Will Devonish. He's up the inside, and he's going to make the pass. He's just barged his way through.
And they're coming across the traffic
Glenn Miles ahead of us.
Yep.
So now Noah Tara has the uber attacking Lewis Wedding behind him. Wedding
Got to get the lights
probably
on.
Thought his chances of the win were shot.
And there's another little touch between Wedding and Devonish coming back up the hill. Yeah. Tara has a little bit of a lose, so now they're very, very close. Miles does well to get out of the way. So now this is the battle for the lead coming down the hill. First, second, third, Nissan, Acura, and Lamborghini around to start lap 17 with only 6 minutes left.
For the first lap in a while, Noah Tara has a gap and he can breathe going down the main straight. He's led his second lap, and Devonish is going on the inside of Wedding. And he's made that pass. Wedding goes for the over-under. We've got a Turmo there on the outside of the track. He just gets way out the way. Devonish, Wedding still side by side. Wedding's going to be having flashbacks to this curb up here. he tucks in behind Devonish, decides not to go too wide over that corner.
Oh, looking very racy down. Then he doesn't decide to go for the pass to the inside at turn 5. Devonish covers it off nicely. Noatara is very slowly starting to escape while these two start to squabble.
It's a second already, just because these two are squabbling. And you got to say, both of them are looking very, very racy. Wedding around the outside, super deep on the brakes. He's going to be able to pull it up. Yes, he has.
And
How has he done that?
And he's got the inside for the next corner. He's got the inside for the next corner too, so he can just box Devonish out here and take the line away, which he's done beautifully.
Amazing on the brakes.
As we've got Dimitri up ahead in lap traffic, but we've got Noatara. That he doesn't have that second, but that second can disappear so quickly because these guys have so much pace when they're not battling each other. Hopefully Dimitri sees this traffic coming through and gets out the way.
Yeah, Noatara hopefully trying to line it up down the main straight if he can. But he's caught the wrong spot. Dimitri does the right thing. He stays wide. 1, 2. No, it's contact. Wedding's gone! No, he didn't see the traffic behind and Wedding's lost a wing. We very nearly collected Pete Savage too. Wedding will be seething.
It's gone from losing the race to having the race in his hand, potentially to losing it. It's all gone now, and that's not good for Wedding. He's going to come into the first corner and have no chance at keeping his car. Oh, he's spun out. He's going to hit Glenn Miles. Oh, dear.
Here we go. And just looking at what... there it is there. There it is on the replay. I don't think that Dimitri just knew that where Wedding was. And
the thing is, you can't disappear as a lapped car. You can't disappear. The car can't just apparate out of existence. There wasn't really anywhere else that he could go.
And you were talking about what happened at turn 1, so we're just going to keep an eye on the replay here while we've got it up for Wedding coming down into turn 1. And as you said, he was going to get to turn 1 with no rear wing, and oh dear.
Yeah.
Miles never saw it coming.
Maybe a bit of frustration there from Lewis Wedding. Understandable after
and he's out of this race.
In the first race, yeah.
And massively out of the race.
It's unfortunate because, the lapped car can't just disappear. You can say that he shouldn't have been there all you want. But
I've just seen as well, there's been an incident further ahead. Burko's gone off the road as well. Now, he was locked in a battle with Zach Ross and Brendan Ross as well, and I just caught that on the other side.
We're going to have a potential change for lead at the front. Tara just didn't quite get the power down in the third to last corner, but he's managed to get it down. Will Devonish had a little bit of overlap.
Here's what happened
to step back a bit.
Here's what happened to Steve Burko. He actually locked up going into the hairpin. I think he must. Oh, and he's done it all by himself. Oh, did what he could to save it, and then the cars that were behind him just skipped through without a care in the world. But back to the front, and this is not what Noatara wanted with 3 minutes to go. A rampaging Lamborghini of Will Devonish behind him. And he's going to have a look at the inside down at turn 5. No, he pulls away from
Also, Peter Savage has got past Greg Tara as well.
Now, they need to work together to catch up to the back of this pair in quick time. And I do mean quick time.
Noatara, very, very clever from Noatara. He just goes straight for that inside line, forces the other guy to go around the outside so he can give himself the absolute optimal line. He's leaving that car's width going into the corner there, so he's not breaking any rules. He's doing it exactly as he needs to and really perfectly placing that car. He compromises himself a little bit in this section here of these quick left-handers, but it's not letting Devonish get that chance to be alongside him.
And you'd be willing to compromise yourself a little bit in the slower section to make sure that you're blocking off the passing opportunity. I think Tara might be struggling a little bit with the rear tyres. Seen just over the last few laps, a little bit of a light up on the exit of corners. He runs a little wide there, which has given Devonish incentive to have a look through these last few corners, maybe set up a run down the main straight. As we've ticked under 2 minutes remaining,
we're going to get three more.
We'll hit that 22 lap mark, and here we go.
Three more laps.
Pete Savage is coming, guys. Pete Savage is coming. So if Noatara can hang on for another minute or so, then Pete Savage is going to be right there with these guys, and that just might be the cherry on top that Tara needs.
Yeah, we've got Rody just up ahead in terms of laps traffic that's about to be passed. And what Noatara wants is he wants Savage up here to start battling Will Devonish, because as soon as there was someone battling with Devonish, he had to divert his attention away from Noatara and wasn't able to keep attacking Noatara. We saw it quickly. That gap jumped out to 1 second almost straight away as soon as Wedding was on the back of Devonish. So here we go. Noatara again goes to the inside, and we've got that lap traffic, which is going to come into play in this
run,
very
Devonish.
twisty section.
Got the draft. He's going to try around the outside. No, enough room there, but no room at the end this time around. Now
and
comes
there is Savage. There is Savage.
He's
It's
right.
not gap time anymore. It's literal millimeters
Hopefully,
between the three of them as they go down
Brody
the
has
hill.
seen the traffic and will pull off to the left here. And he has.
Well
Well
from
done,
Roadhog.
Brody.
Good job. Good job. Let these guys run to the flag. There's Zach Ross. Hasn't he kept his nose clean for P5 at the moment? He's moved quite nicely up the order.
He's not out of podium contention either if something happens between these guys here.
Greg Tara had
Greg
a moment.
Tara just had a big old moment, yeah.
He was going to catch onto the back of these guys as well. I think Noah's just starting to hold the pace up just a little bit. He's got to maximise the exit. Here we go. This is going to be the trouble. Here they're going to go 3 wide down the main straight. It's going to be on. It's going to be on. Savage on Devonish on Noah Tara, and 3 into 1 does not go, and Savage comes out
Savage
on
has
P2.
got it.
Right, now Kenny
Devonish
Holt,
is going to come back at him. They're still side by side.
and he manages
this
to hang
time-
on to it.
Now that was very brave from Noah to swoop around the outside. He must have
Man,
those
that
brakes
was-
hooked up to an absolute T, because every single time under braking, he's been unstoppable. And that's given himself a little bit of breathing room as Peter Savage and Will Devonish are now battling. And there's a
Savage
little bit of
was
an air
wide.
gap now.
Savage was
So-
wide though at turn 5.
Yes.
He didn't get down to the apex, and Devonish tried to stick his nose in there, and he's going to have a nibble here, I think, at turn 6 if he gets a sniff, Devonish. But he's going to go the long way. No, not this time.
Nah, Devonish got a little bit of wheel spin on the exit, so he actually ruined that opportunity before it
Time
even appeared.
has expired. We've got the rest of this lap and one more. Noah Tara leads from Peter Savage, from Will Devonish. Greg Tara is still right there. Brendan Ross is not away from this either. This is still anyone's race.
Savage trying to go down the inside in the slow sections. They come back up the hill. Tara goes a little wide to compensate. Now they're coming back up the hill. Tara hasn't been great on the exit here, but he's been much better under brakes. A little slide from the pair of them as they get the power down. Coming back down the hill to start what will be the final lap of tonight's action. The final lap of the
Oh, it's a much better
Okayama
one for Peter
twins.
Savage.
White flag in the air.
And Noah
Pete
Tara
Savage.
can't block him off anymore.
No, white flag for the final lap to commence. Pete Savage has got track position on the inside at 1. Noah Tara swoops around the outside again. Can he hold the line through turn 1? Savage runs him all the way out to the edge of the road. Noah Tara's got nothing to fight with. Savage goes right around the outside at turn 2. Devonish is now getting racy on the inside of Tara as they exit 2, as they run down to the hairpin. Has Tara got anything to fight back with, or is he going to have to settle for second place? At the moment, Savage holds sway as they get out of 5, and he gets a good run off and starts to gap Tara's Nissan.
That's
All
very
three of
important
them
for
very
Savage
nice
there.
runs.
But that is, it's going to be, now, here's Noah Tara. He's going to defend from, this is going to be the last spot. Devonish is going to have a realistic opportunity to get past him. And he's going to need to rely on a mistake from Peter Savage to get this win now, I think. Oh, there's a bit of a slide there for Devonish. He's absolutely committed to it. He wants his second place. He knows first is a bridge too far now, but he still wants those extra points, especially knowing that a potential rival in Lewis Wedding is out and Savage is his closest rival at the moment.
Good cover by
There's
Noah
already
Tara.
an air gap between the Bentley and the Nissan. It looks like the Bentley might have this done. Peter Savage backing up his second from the first race with a possible win as they come back down the penultimate corner. It's all on for second place, though Noah Tara has held Will Devonish behind for the entirety of the second half of the race, but it will be Peter Savage coming through the final corner to take the second race this evening, the Okayama Twin Sprint. Peter
Nice-
Savage takes the
it's
win.
so
Nice
close
job.
between
And it's
Noah
very-
Tara
takes
takes
second place.
Very nice.
Maiden podium from Noah Tara.
Yeah.
Will Devonish
Wow.
third. Greg Tara right there in fourth. Had the best seat in the house for that whole race.
Pete Savage, look at the
And,
finish as
I
well,
mean,
and Brendan Ross is just going to get across the line ahead of Aaron Thomas as well, so that was a close run thing in the end. And then Pete Savage's teammate in Steve Burko is going to hang on for 8th. Actually, that was Turmo that was behind him, so he's actually finished 8th on his own right. Matt Schwass will finish in 9th, and Cracker's going to get inside the top 10, so the Lotus is going to do very nicely to pick up a nice little chunk of points. And then Steve Bolger recovered all the way back to 11th.
It's a very good job from Bolger to regain some points after that unfortunate first lap. But honestly, Noah Tara, what an absolute... I mean, I know Pete Savage won that race, but drive of the day, drive of the weekend, drive of the year so far for me, Noah Tara, that second place held off Will Devonish for 15 minutes, basically, non-stop, constant pressure on the back. And not just from Will Devonish. He had pressure from Devonish. He had pressure from Wedding. He had pressure from Savage, from arguably 3 of the best drivers we have in Automobilista Australia. And he was up to the challenge. It was only on the very last lap that Peter Savage was able to get past him. That was an absolutely brilliant drive.
Yeah, it was just a little mistake out of the final corner on the penultimate lap. He just tried to carry the momentum. He just needed to get that corner exit just right, and unfortunately he didn't get it right. Pete Savage did, and he left that space on the run down to turn one. Did pretty well to fight it, but settled for second in the end. And I must say, with a defensive drive like that, that is worthy of the Nether School of Defensive Driving hat coming off right now and saying that is top draw. It did absolutely everything right. Positioned the car perfectly, left a gap where he needed to leave it. That is how you drive a defensive race. Top draw effort.
That was an absolutely brilliant race, and again, what an advertisement for the GT3 racing in AMS Oz. What a round for the Sprint Series, and we have our winner in the booth with us, Peter Savage. A race in three phases for you. Firstly, the battle with Devonish and Lewis Wedding to start with, and then when they both had incidents, you inherited a comfortable lead, but it all went a bit pear-shaped. Just take us through your thoughts as you came around the final corner to find Glenn Miles on the racing line.
Yeah, I seen him go off the track, and I was fairly certain that the game would have gave him blue flags, and I just thought he was going to stay off the road. And I tried I noticed he was coming back on at the last moment. I tried my best to get away from him, and in the end, me trying to get away from him just made me spin into the fence. But yeah, I'm excited that I've won, but I'm actually much more happy about how my teammates, Steve Burko and Zach Ross, fought their way back after their disappointing first races to have all three of us in the top 10. It was a very nice team effort.
Oh, what a nice wholesome remark from you. Congratulations to you and the team. Just talk about those last few laps, getting onto the back of the battle for the lead, and then on the last lap making that move on Noah Taro for the win. What an absolutely brilliant display of driving from yourself.
Yeah, cheers. I don't think I've ever been that aggressive before. After I had that little problem with I think it was Glenn, I got so angry and just snapped into some sort of rage, and it just helped me fly forward.
Yeah, well, it showed. Yeah, unbelievable driving from the group of you. Actually, the battle between the top five throughout the race was unbelievable. Just a comment on the sprint format. One round in, how have you found tonight's action compared to what we were seeing in the World Series? How do you rate the differences?
I just feel that the results probably won't be as mixed as the World Series with no safety car and stuff like that. Unless there's a bad incident, it's probably just going to be the same people at the front all the time. Where I felt like the longer races allowed people like even Wedding, who is already really quick, but just people like him and Brenton Foley, where they could just work their magical strategies and end up, in a position that you wouldn't be able to believe, and it just made the racing so much harder and more fun.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations on your win and second place tonight. I'm pretty sure that puts you in the lead of the championship, but we'll get Nether to confirm that a bit later on. So great start to the championship for you tonight, Peter Savage.
Thank you.
Second place tonight in the second race was Noah Taro in an amazing display of defensive driving. Noah, you inherited the race lead after a bunch of incidents ahead of you. Describe the feeling as you saw the Bentley of Peter Savage spun to the side of the road and taking the race lead.
Incredibly surprised, actually. It didn't really register that I was in first till he was way behind me. So, yeah, incredibly surprised with that.
Well, you managed to do well not to show it because you held off the battle behind you for quite a number of laps. Did you feel the pressure with the battles going on behind you? Were you aware of how tight it was in the podium positions?
Nah, I tried to block out behind me so I didn't make any mistakes and just focused on the road ahead and trying to stay consistent.
You did a great job of that. In the end, you held Will behind for the second half of the race. Unfortunately, not quite able to get over the line for your first victory, but a maiden podium for you in GT3. That's going to be a very nice feeling.
it's a very good feeling to actually do it for once, though I feel like a lot of luck was the cause of all this.
Oh well, you gotta. A saying I've heard is that luck is the intersection of opportunity and preparation. So you definitely did the preparation for this weekend, and you got the opportunity and you made the most of it. So congratulations on your maiden podium and second place tonight.
Thank you.
And third place was the race winner of race one, Will Devonish. Will, a bit of a mixed bag in that second race for you. Tell us, did you get sick of the looking at the rear end of that green Nissan?
No, I've been saying it for a while. Noah's been due for a podium for a long time. So even how much I wanted to get past him, it was great to see him in the lead. And as we'd say, took a page out of the Nether defensive school of driving for that whole race. And to be honest, I had pretty average situational awareness. I didn't see Pete on my tail until about half a lap before he overtook me. I think if I knew he was coming up so fast, I might have been a bit more aggressive on Noah, but can't take it away from him. And Pete, it was a magnificent drive from that spin, and can't complain about a third.
Yeah, well, it was a magnificent drive from the three of you, really. You had a spin earlier on the race, and of course, Lewis Wedding had a bit of a moment as well that dropped you into that battle. Was it a difficult thing to get your head around that you'd lost those positions, then been given them back, and then were engaged in a battle? Is that sort of something that you have to contend with mentally as you go into the latter stages of the race?
Yeah, I think after the spin, I was like, okay, well, let's just bring it home. Hope for the third. Unfortunately, had some body damage, so any sort of slipstreaming wasn't really happening for me. So yeah, after the spin, I was just wanting to bring it home, and then everything opened up. So that brought the heart rate up again. But yeah, as mentioned, had no clue Peter was coming. I thought he was done for. So it's a mega drive from him, and how aggressive he was tonight.
Yeah, in the end, though, third place for you after your win in race one. I'm pretty sure that puts you into second in the championship. A very good start in the championships for the 6 rounds. Are you looking forward to maybe competing for the overall? You have aspirations this early in the season?
It'd be nice. I've been with AMS Oz for 3 years now and still haven't got any championship, so something would be nice.
Well, best of luck and congratulations on your results tonight.
Thank you.
And that is the top 3, guys. What a stunning night of racing and performances up and down the field.
Yeah, completely agree, Bagsy. I sum this one up. We knew coming into tonight that this was going to be something like anything other we've never seen before, and, well, it delivered in spades, didn't it?
Yeah, it really did. We weren't exactly sure what this format was going to throw up potentially, and what it did throw up was some incredible racing and some absolutely amazing, aggressive but still good, fair racing. And and the thing is, we still got enough of a pace difference where we've had these we still have things like lap traffic getting involved and stuff like that, which is nice because it does add that extra dimension and that extra tool that the drivers need to have in their arsenal. And yeah, doing 2 brilliant races. I've got so many notes about things that have happened and things to go back and look at and watch again. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about Noah Tara's drive again tonight. It was just an absolutely amazing drive, and I'm glad to have been able to watch it and commentate on it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was actually looking forward to seeing if I could get a word with Mike Coulston, who was just very briefly in the broadcast booth to have a listen, but he's just disappeared. So that's a bit of an unfortunate late-minute change. But I want to say a big thanks to Mike Coulston for organising this series. Getting it off the ground with the idea behind it all, and also a big thanks to the help he's gone through with organising Antara Resort Style Living to come on board and put up the prize fund for tonight and for the series. So we'll look forward to seeing what happens in 2 weeks' time when these guys head all the way back to South Australia and tackle the bend for the first time. But for tonight, that's where we'll leave it. My thanks to Josh Bagsy Bags and Michael the Floodman Zalavari, as always, for their inspirational words and their insights into all things GT3. But we'll see you for GT3 in approximately 2 weeks' time when we head back to the home shores of Australia. As always, please drive safely. See you next time. Bye for now.